Rags and Wolf and Mauler for well over a year, and that they'd happened to spot my messages in the chat when they were covering a video about a movie that I had an extensive knowledge of. Lucky how, my first super chat I ever sent to Mauler was about, hey, are you going to do an Unbridled Rage series on The Dark Knight Rises or something, or a critique series and whatever. And
the best movie ever made.
That was before I was on EFAP. That was when I was literally no one. And then a few months later, I'm actually on EFAP and I'm tearing apart Dark Knight Rises with Mauler. It's like, that's a pretty amazing coincidence. It's funny how things work like that, but yeah, it can happen.
And here you are now.
Happen, so,
look at that. So cool stuff, guys. Well, thanks for joining us.
We all are.
We are having a good evening so far. Hope everyone's having a great Friday. It's a national holiday here in Canada. I'm sure it is for most of the world.
Every Friday is a national holiday?
No, but nowadays pretty much it feels that way. So welcome to...
Well, at the moment, we're on the biggest holiday anyone's going to get.
Well, you call it a holiday. I call it a really lazy time to work. So
I call it one of the worst times possible to work because I work in retail.
Ooh, yeah.
Very fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys haven't noticed the stream, we have some really weird looking icons on the screen, and that's nothing to do with me changing anything. That's just Discord decided to upgrade and do crazy stuff. So I'm probably going to find a new solution because
maybe there's some kind of option. Maybe
I was looking through the options. I couldn't really find anything. So this might be temporary, but I will find a new solution because this looks ridiculous. but in case you don't know what there is, we have LiteratureDevil on the left. Next to him is Shiney. I am this beautiful pink skin tone, angry shepherd fellow, and then we got Mr. Southpaw on the right. So, hey guys, welcome to number 18, Smudcast.
And you see now it's just kind of just me and you, Smud, and for everyone else, they're just kind of shoved off to the side.
Yeah, they're just squished. So yeah, we gotta deal with some cramping problems here, and
apparently we got Tan Smud, Red Devil, Tan Boy, Blue Shiney. Less grey Paul.
Smud Boy is a lovely shade of tan.
Yeah, it's like I'm ready to burst into flames if I enter the sun.
I never thought that I'd say this, but it's probably a good thing that Evan isn't here because then it'd be even more crammed than.
Oh God! You wouldn't fit. Like someone would have to just be not on this. They'd just be gone.
They'd be the phantom voice.
So what's going?
It worked fine. It worked fine before. Why is this a thing? Why? Why would they do this? It was fine with icons and it looked nice. You had little circle icons and it had a little glow green thing around it when you talk, and that was perfection.
Well, now we have big boxes around our icons, so it feels like you're part of the community. Or maybe you're social distancing yourself within this box. You're making sure you keep
social distancing of icons.
I'm sorry, LitDev. You're just gonna have to get off screen because I don't want people to be too close to me.
Use divas now. Just divas now.
There's no coronavirus in hell. Don't worry, guys.
It's too hot for the coronavirus to exist here.
Alrighty, we got a super chat we haven't started. Thank you, Oren Albert Mazel. Any thoughts about Rags ATLA scandal Southpaw? What's that about, Southpaw?
Yeah, ATLA is Avatar: The Last Airbender. So I don't think that Rags should have said anything, considering that he didn't watch the show. Like all that he had was references that Mauler gave to him. It's like you have a friend that's ranting about a shitty show that you've never seen. Or a show that you've never seen. Okay, maybe I won't use such loaded language, but ranting about a show that they call bad. So then, of course, your only secondhand information is, the show must be bad. And he just kind of ran his mouth. And
it is an incredibly biased source.
Yeah,
it wasn't all that great. I mean, from what I've heard all about this stuff secondhand, but. It was apparently they just destroyed or they ripped into Avatar: The Last Airbender. Now I'm saying, and then they told me that there was a huge fan backlash, and I said, what did you expect? Avatar: The Last Airbender is a sacred cow.
It's well beloved. Yeah, it's well beloved show. I didn't watch it till about a year and 4 months ago, and I thought, pretty good. It's pretty funny.
It's
Got nice
funny that
action.
It's funny that you guys
Seems to be
mentioned
well
that because when I have brought up that people are mad because Rags made fun of a show that they like or a show that like a lot of people think is really good, people said that was a straw man, and it's like, well, I mean, is it? It's like that's the thing is I wasn't even referring to everyone as a monolith because I explicitly said on Twitter that there's some people that think that Rags was acting hypocritically. You know, I said some people perceive Rags to be acting hypocritically there. Okay, that's so. And I made this very clear like months ago, and or maybe not months ago. It was like a couple weeks ago, shortly after my last appearance on EFAP. And I had this, on Mahler's server yesterday. People were blowing up about it because, well, the EFAP mini was uploaded. So then people were, it just like reignited the whole discussion about Avatar. And I had this guy who was continuing to accuse me of strawmanning everyone that was complaining about Rags. And then it's like, I let him go on long enough. And then I'm like, you realize that I have this tweet pinned to my Twitter, right? Where I explicitly say that I don't think that everyone is reacting this way just because their sacred cow was targeted. Just that some people are, It's funny because then he immediately just like ran away from the conversation, vanished without trace, never spoke again. So that was fun. I think that the other element to this is I've criticized Rags, I've criticized Mahler, I've criticized how they've handled this. I think this was completely mishandled there, but also I think that some people kind of overreacted. Especially when watching that stream, what I got out of it, my personal interpretation was that Rags was like trolling people, trying to get a rise out of them. It didn't seem like he was trying to be that malicious, but a lot of people read something else into it.
Well, that was his intention. It obviously worked. So
yeah,
he succeeded.
But no,
I first watched that stream as someone who still thought that the show was good before I had this 8-hour two Discord calls with Mahler that totaled over 8 hours, and so it's like before those happened, I watched the stream and I got the impression that he was trying to piss people off intentionally because that's what Rags does. And then once it was directed at chat and it was directed at something that they liked, they fucking turned on him. So I feel like fucking everyone's an asshole in this situation. Basically, I think that people are blowing it way out of proportion, overreacting to it. I'm not saying that what Rags did was great. I'm not saying that he's justified. But good God, especially the way that I have been attacked by people who completely mischaracterize what I do not get the impression Rags' critics are being 100% reasonable here. I'm not saying that they're unreasonable completely, but yes. So
but just to make sure, everyone in the situation, like you, Rags, Mahler, LitDev, you're all fine, right? Like you're getting along fine. No one's got any hard feelings.
No, it's fine. Everything's fine as far as I'm concerned. I had a lot of fun on that stream. I mean, that little EFAP mini. I just did a terrible job.
Yeah. I'm on good terms with Mahler, Rags, and Wolf. There's stuff going on that I can't really disclose. I'm sure that people have, if you've read Wolf's second Reddit post, you'll be somewhat privy to some of the stuff that's going on. But I'm not going to go into that here. So.
All right. I think that was a very well answered question there. Thank you, Southpaw. So,
but just make sure it's nothing new with Wolf, is it? It's the same stuff as.
Correct.
Okay, just making sure.
Okay, so let's get to the topic at hand, which is the video we're going to cover. This is a video by our very good friend who loves us so much on Twitter, at least.
He really loves Kendo.
Kendo Ren. Yeah, Kendo Ren is really the highlight of analysis that we can look at when we look at the character of Kylo Ren. We know he studies Kendo, and he's very practiced at it, and it's like
I personally, I for one, cannot wait to debunk someone's happiness. It's going to be fantastic.
We're telling someone they're wrong for their emotions.
Smud Boy, I have a question. Before we begin, I don't want you to get into any trouble here, so let me just ask you. did you ask ATATChat's permission to cover him again?
I actually tweeted him directly. I said, hey, we're going to do it. Love the video. And that was about it. Got no response, so I just figured everything was cool.
And to get his flag button ready again.
Well, yeah, that's what he did the first time, so I thought he'd do it again. I haven't gotten anything. If he flagged it, no one told me.
He said he flagged all those videos or something like that, but you can't really do a copyright claim unless he gives away his real name and all that stuff. So I'm not really sure if he's willing to do that.
I was willing so much to try and reach out to AT-AT to try and have some kind of discussion or some kind of at least. But he isn't responding to anything, and he keeps sniping from afar. And I don't have any respect for this guy now. He doesn't have the balls to basically just talk to us.
Well, that's his prerogative. Like for me, it's like, hey, anytime he wants to reach out, whenever he does, if he does, we're open for it.
But all he does is snipe. That's all he does. He just snipes on Twitter without ever responding to anything we actually say, and he only pulls say the random angry tweet or the random angry comment that comes from I don't know if it comes from this channel or any other channel, but he ends up pulling up and say, hey, look, this is what these people are like, and it ignores my comments and my tweets and my DMs and your DMs and your tweets.
He's a soy boy. His veins are full of soy. There's not a drop of testosterone in there. So of course he's going to do that.
I don't like calling people terms like that, but at this point,
it's a legitimate term. That's what he is. That's what he's acting like.
Well, I can't really argue. I just can't.
Let's not poison the well before we get started, gentlemen. Let's just say
he's done that. He's the one that's been acting this way.
Well, the well's not poisoned; it's fucking obliterated.
That's exactly.
There is no well.
Okay. Due to his own actions, he has proven to us that he's a bad actor. That he is going to try. He's not willing to do a conversation. That he is just out there to snipe and to insult and to false flag videos. So that's due to his own actions, not to our perception of his actions.
If he happens to watch this, ATATChat, I'm giving you one last chance to try and reach out to us. You can try, and we can try and come to some kind of understanding, but just stop this. Stop the sniping. I don't want drama. I come here to hang with my friends online and have a good time having discussions about stories and shit. We don't want this, so stop it.
I'm a bit more reflective and chill about these things. Whether someone calls me names online makes no difference. Anytime you want to come on and say hello, I'm always open, and I'll be happy to beat the crap out of everyone around me so that they can change their opinion about you. So don't worry about everyone else.
It's more just the drama is just so unnecessary.
Well, he's free to say whatever he likes, and that's totally fine. He can disregard us. He could hate us. It doesn't matter. That's totally his prerogative, and I'm okay with that. So
yeah, it was all fine until you started whipping out that I'm going to start flagging your videos stuff, and then they never responded to that. He said, I'm just going to start flagging videos because they didn't ask my permission to use my videos. And I was like,
well, and then Mauler retweeted it.
Star Wars, didn't you? Yeah.
Like that tweet was getting so much attention. What was it, Jeremy from Geeks and Games? There was you, Smud, me. I think Mauler had a go at it as well.
To me, that's all water under the bridge. But again, we're all being friendly here, as we know the character of the people we're addressing. We're going to disregard that because we care about the arguments, we care about the evidence, and we care about what this person is trying to say about his opinion regarding Rian Johnson undoing J.J. Abrams' Star Wars setups in The Force Awakens. So let's check it out.
Sounds good to me.
Well, I wouldn't call it his opinion. I would call it his argument.
Sure, that's fine.
Oh, but he says we're what do you say? We're trying to debunk his opinion and to debunk his happiness and
something like that.
What are you calling it?
That's we're specifically talking about his arguments being put forward.
I'm not sure what that means, but okay. I mean, he has every right to his opinion of what we're doing and what he likes or dislikes. That's totally cool. And that's fine.
This is a brand new video. It's all new, shiny, and spanky. I'm never gonna say that again.
Okay, let's just keep going. Okay.
Oh, is
Did Rian Johnson undo the narrative setups made in Star Wars The Force Awakens? Well,
and almost
instantly
instantly it's a graphical
The Force
down.
Awakens believes that it did, while also claiming that The Rise of Skywalker did not retcon a single thing from The Last Jedi.
Do you want to know the truth about your parents?
Okay, there's a difference between undo and retcon. Retcon is when you have established lore that has been rewritten or redone, and undoing means you have this thing that's been set up and you either drop it or don't do anything with it, or you turn it on its head, which is the whole point of Rian Johnson's technique, which is to subvert what came before. So technically, yes, he did subvert stuff. So that's kind of his thing. So I think ATATChat's actually taking this a step further and talking about retconning, which is a little different.
We all know Rian Johnson is really good at subverting our expectations. So that's this whole deal.
Super chat.
Oh, thank you, Shiney, for noticing that. DGM Voices. Starting to think AT-AT might have a point. I mean, you are currently trying to shove the black guy off screen right now. First off, the black guy is in hell. He's already in a place that I can never push him off to, and he likes it there. So
he's the fucking devil.
Yeah, I'm on the back of the bus right now, guys.
He's just exhaling all that clean air from hell, you know.
One thing I just noticed is that the order of the call in the stream is almost the exact same as the order of the call I'm seeing. Usually it's completely different. It's a completely different order.
Oh, well, I can't move them around anymore, so I don't know. That's a thing. So they're kind of stuck that way. I can't drag and drop you guys anymore, unfortunately.
Again, Discord, why you break it?
Why Discord? Why are you doing this to us? Anyway.
Or have you always known?
You remember more than you say.
You know the truth. Say it.
I've been in your head.
You remember more than you say.
They were no.
And then all of a sudden, new memories that we've never seen before just
Who sold you off for drinking money?
You are a Palpatine.
You come from nothing. You're nothing.
Is he actually trying to allude to the idea that this might have been a cohesive, like, planned twist between the two movies?
No, I think he's saying that the Rise of Skywalker was basically ruined like this. So, like, he's claiming this has been ruined by the Rise of Skywalker.
I think that.
I mean, you could argue that Kylo Ren was just lying, that he doesn't know anything about her actual parents, and that
how would he know anything to do with his lineage?
I have no idea.
Well, apparently they both have the same information from The Force, and so this is probably not a lie. The thing is that Rian Johnson left it open. J.J. Abrams left it open. But the question in the narrative is, how is she so powerful? Where did she get these abilities? And that's why we want to know, who are these parents? Because the narrative also brought that up with her wanting to leave Jakku, or not leave Jakku, because she was waiting. So she wants to know who her parents are. We want to know who her parents are. This is a big question.
Considering how much emphasis The Force Awakens puts on whose Rey's parents are, and like really, hanging a lampshade on the mystery aspect of it, it's like, that they're trying to set up some important revelation about where she comes from. And then The Last Jedi comes along and reveals, oh, she's a nobody. It's like, this is a tantamount to me writing a book where I'm plotting out a twist, but then I can't write the sequel. I have to hand the reins over to someone else to write the second book, right? And then, but I'm setting it up. I'm setting up this idea of of a certain plot twist, maybe as to how, like, if it's a murder mystery, it's like, well, I have this plan for who this character, who the murderer is, right? And I give that outline to the next writer, and then the second book comes along, and I open it up, and I'm like, ready, okay, let's see if he followed my plan, right? And then I get to the end, and it's like, oh, he's saying that it wasn't a murder, that it was actually a suicide, but the first book with the intent that it was murder. And he just threw out my plan, which is going to affect the third book too. Thanks, Rian.
It's almost as if Rian Johnson wrote a fan fiction of The Force Awakens, what should happen next.
Right. So we're talking about finding out that their parents were nobodies, and then we find out in episode 9 they're actually Palpatines. So you're like, oh,
And
that's
Well,
not
no, they
nobody.
weren't both Palpatine.
Well, one
obviously.
was, and they got married, or they had a kid. So
Palpatine. According to official canon now, it's not in the movie, but according to canon, it was her dad was a clone of Palpatine, so it could have just reproduced asexually like
Well,
a sponge.
Matt Smith was confirmed to have been playing a young Palpatine in the movie originally, but then he got cut.
Yeah, that's why I'm speculating that Matt Smith was supposed to be like Rey's father or something.
Why the fuck would you choose one of the doctors to like be? It just doesn't work. Things iconic people sometimes don't always work in like another iconic franchise because you can't stop seeing them. I think Matt Smith has become one of those actors. I can't not see him as the Doctor now. Same with like David Tennant.
Well, it could be they were setting up the greatest sci-fi crossover of all time, and then it's kind of chickened out.
Well, there's two ideas I think for Johnson. Is that one, he wanted to do his own thing, so then he did actually drop it, or he had no concept of what he could do, so he just did nothing.
The thing is, I think when it comes to Ryan, wanted to he cared about the meta, and he wanted to do the opposite of what the audience wanted. So, because you can look back at Force Awakens and you can see that there's a moment where Maz says to Rey something about your parents, what you're looking for isn't behind you, it's in front of you, your parents don't matter, but and then from that point forwards they don't care. She doesn't care about her parents, but the people who do care about her parents is the audience, because they want some kind of way to explain why she's so powerful, to the point where some people in the audience started creating theories that these were the rebirth of the father and the son from Mortis. Like, you really think they're going to go that far into lore?
Which they've already said wasn't.
But then when it came, Clone Wars is still, but
really,
when it comes to, why are you so surprised?
I thought they did away with the entire EU. So
no, the thing is, Clone Wars was like brand new, and I think the rules they came up for it was anything that was directly produced by George Lucas, like canon. Anything else was not.
Interesting.
I know, I'm trying to remember where the hell I. And then all of a sudden, when it comes to The Last Jedi, she cares about her parents again. Why? Because the audience do, and that doesn't. It's a large disconnect between Rey's character in the Last Jedi, The Force Awakens. So she's actually inconsistent.
Yeah, so
that's what a surprise.
Rian Johnson wanted to subvert your expectations because you're expecting Rey to be the child of someone really, really powerful. This to barely explain why she's so unprecedentedly, like, there's no precedent for how powerful she is. So obviously the Star Wars audience, the people who know Star Wars and respect Star Wars, was saying, well, how is she so powerful? She has to be the daughter of somebody. And Rian Johnson wanted to destroy all that, saying, well, no, she's no one's daughter. I mean, she's probably a daughter of somebody, but they're just space trash parents. So they sold her for drinking money, and she's just powerful because she's just awesome.
Why she's so powerful? All the Jedi are in her, obviously.
Well, to argue against the point, you could say, well, the third movie can present why, and it did. It just did it in a very broken way that contradicts what came before.
In a very stupid way.
So you could argue that maybe Abrams retconned Episode 8 reveal. That could be. I see. That's a better argument, just because Johnson did nothing. He just went, "Oh yeah, they're nobody." You're like, well, "Oh, okay," and then that could still work. It's just a bad answer because it doesn't answer the question of the meta narrative. But in Episode 9, we find out, no, you're really a Palpatine. You're like, oh, really? And then you're a dyad. It's like, oh, what? You're two things. Okay. Then
they don't explain the dyad.
Can you explain both of these? Can you explain either of these things? Nope, sure can.
No, we need fast. We need fast hyperspace and planets.
What this
space worms that come out of gas clouds.
Infinite ships.
Fleets.
So what ends up happening is you have bad writing,
going forever,
or no writing. I would say no writing with Rian Johnson. There's nothing there, And then to add on top of that, you add bad writing. So it's kind of like freedom to do whatever you want, nothing, and then bad writing. It's if we're being nice to Johnson and saying, okay, nothing is not as technically bad writing. It's just no reveal. So we're waiting for the reveal. We get the reveal, and now it contradicts what came before. That's where I see the contradiction. With Johnson, it's kind of like, oh, you didn't do anything with it. The setup was just dropped.
I feel like doing a twist like, oh, you're nobody, that could work if we're talking about like a completely different IP where it's kind of like it would be sort of what like if you were to make a space opera that is to Star Wars what Game of Thrones kind of is to Lord of the Rings, where you're trying to be more subversive, that could work. The thing is that Star Wars' audience has an expectation of something a little bit more dramatic than you're no one. Is that a reasonable thing to say?
I guess, because when you look at the Jedi Council, you look at the Jedi younglings, we don't know who we don't know a lot of these people are, but they're taken from birth. So they're technically no one. They're technically whatever. It doesn't really matter. So when you see someone who doesn't have any of this stuff and they're God, then you're like, okay, something has to break. Something has to make sense.
Yeah, I would say that it doesn't really matter that Rey's parents are no one. The main issue is that there's no explanation for her power level, and I don't think there ever could be an explanation for why she's so powerful with zero training.
Even if she had even if they planned her to be Palpatine from the beginning.
So the thing is,
honestly, they fucked up entirely when they decided that Rey should just be the scavenger that has no Jedi training whatsoever. I think that they should have made her, one, like 10 years older, and two, made her like Luke Skywalker's star pupil, basically, under the in the new Jedi Order. She is to Luke what Mace Windu was to Yoda, basically. And you have that fixed instantly because the background is implied. Whereas when you have, she's a scavenger, then and there's no Jedi training whatsoever, you don't even have to necessarily, show her training before you actually show her in battle. As long the background is she is like in her mid-30s or something. She is trained as a Jedi basically her whole life.
Your mic's being a bit change to push talk. It might be a bit.
Oh, is my mic?
Yeah, it's cutting out every now and again. You might want to change to push to talk. I know that fixed it last time.
Okay, I'll try that. Sorry.
A little bit of distortion, but I can still hear you.
Okay, how does?
Yeah, it's cutting off. Yeah.
Oh, it's cutting off now.
That one was fine.
It seemed fine for a little. Like the last couple of streams you've been on, you weren't cutting out at all. But all of a sudden, it starts again. Dreaded mic cut out.
Yeah. Okay. So sorry. What I meant to say was, I think that the idea is if she is basically like 10 to 15 years older than she actually is in the movies, right? You make her 34, 36, whatever, instead of like she's 19. And then you also say, like she's been training under Luke Skywalker her whole life. If the idea is that Luke has been spending the last 30 years building up his Jedi Order after the events of Return of the Jedi, that's perfectly reasonable to assume. And he's been training her since she was very young, and she's a very talented student. You don't even have to show a training montage, like as long as you're establishing that that's the background. When you establish that she's this desert scavenger orphan who's never trained as a Jedi, but she's capable of doing all of this stuff without needing to train, that's where I call bullshit. It's not the fact that she's this powerful. It's just that you give us a background, like you give the character a background that says she shouldn't know how to do this, but she's able to do it anyways. If you just change the character's background, that would fix it instantly. So they fucked up from the get-go with The Force Awakens when they said, we want this strong, powerful, kick-ass female character, but we also want to make her a newbie.
Well, there's also
we don't want to work for powers.
there's also the premise of The Force Awakens. What is awakening? Is it Rey? Okay, what does that mean? What is a Force awakening? Like maybe that's a big deal in the Jedi temples. Everyone knows what an awakening is. Is that like for kids? Is that for adults? What's the difference? So if they had more of a prophecy sort of idea or an actual background, like, oh, this is what happens when someone awakens to their Force powers. And in Rey's case, it was just off the charts, and we don't know how or why. But it's not unheard of. But because there's no one around to help her, she's like totally lost. She's hurting people, but she's not hurting people. She's Rey from nowhere, and she's amazing, and it doesn't make any sense.
If they really would have fixed it, everything would have been fixed. If they'd given her an arc, if they given her an arc where she grew from weaker to stronger, where she had to earn everything, it would have been fine, because then it could have actually played on that little scenario of, okay, well, one of my parents are, okay, who are her parents? Because they're making it a whole deal. And then she earns her way to power, scrounges up and earns her way to power in her own right, and then whoever her parents are becomes kind of irrelevant. That could have been an interesting message of the movie. But they had to have given her an arc. Like Luke Skywalker had an arc, but they didn't. She's just awesome.
I'm sorry. There's people that now think that 34 is too old for a protagonist. You're fucking wrong. Like that's as old as that's a little younger than Obi-Wan was at Revenge of the Sith. Yeah, it's I don't know. I think you could. In fact, it doesn't have to be 34. You can make her 26. As long as the idea is her background is she's been training under Luke her whole life. Well,
the thing is, I would argue that Qui-Gon was the protagonist of Episode 1. And how old was he?
Yeah.
I don't fucking remember how old he is, but I'm sure he was older than...
Qui-Gon Jinn was, he was like 28 or something, right?
No, he's like 12.
No, apparently they want Rey to be 19. I don't know why. It doesn't seem like that's a necessary prerequisite for the character.
Well, the thing is, you could theoretically make Rey 19. However, there's a lot of... If you're making a character 19, there's a lot that comes with that, like a naivety to the world, not a lot of experience.
Oh yeah, they could have had that. Especially if she was trained by Skywalker her whole life and never experienced the world outside of her little cloister. Then you could have
the thing is, that could be really fucking interesting.
26 is acceptable. Apparently 26 is acceptable to this guy in the chat. Okay, I'm fine with compromising with 26. It doesn't have to be she's middle-aged. It doesn't have to be that she's like 34. But the idea is just she's a little older. She's not just a teenager, and she would have more experience. You look at it, I'm thinking of this as just like you go into a martial art, and the people that are like the older the martial artist, the more experienced they tend to be. It's not always the case. Some people start out a lot older than others, but generally speaking, in my experience, older martial artists, like at least ones that are a few years older than me, are going to be more experienced than me. And I think if you want a character that's this kick-ass as Rey is supposed to be, because that is the intent behind this character, right? They want a strong female character. Fine, but earn it. Give her a background where that makes sense.
So it's like, to point out a couple of people I know. So Sensei Uenoto and Dave, they're like world-renowned champions in karate, Shotokan. They're fucking old as shit. But I still want to get in front of one of their punches. I've seen them punch. They could kick the ass of anyone.
When I was saying like 34 or something, it's like that's the age of like Rebecca Ferguson, and I think she's ridiculously kick-ass and beautiful in the Mission Impossible movies. So it's like I was honestly thinking of like, yeah, don't have Daisy Ridley in these movies because she can't act. Bring in Rebecca Ferguson instead.
I think we've cleared that section of the movie so far, or the video. Let's keep going.
Wow. I've never seen someone try so hard to save face in the wake of what I'd call legitimate criticism. To be honest.
Okay. We're talking about editors here who are making comments about Episode 8. Why would they have to save face? They didn't work on Episode 8.
The thing is, okay, so I think he's pointing out some kind of hypocrisy that, Episode 9 is changes what Episode 8 set up, and when she's criticizing that Episode 8 did something to ruin Episode 7 setup. I believe that's what he's implying.
I believe that. I believe that the thing about saving face is the fact that Episode 9 is being blasted for how it's edited. And so his perspective is that these editors are trying to save face by pinning the blame on Rian Johnson instead. And to that I say, like, okay,
Everyone has to fucking.
well, I think that there's so many issues with the Rise of Skywalker that are independent of the fact that it has to be a follow-up to The Last Jedi. But sure, the fact that it was following up The Last Jedi had to have presented an insurmountable challenge to JJ. I would not write a sequel to The Last Jedi that cannot like retcon basically the entire movie if you paid me $3 billion right now to do it. I wouldn't do it.
I think I could try.
I think
but
that everything from the start of The Force Awakens was basically setting up to fail. It's everything from like just the way JJ had set up how he wanted it. He wanted a restart, but he wanted he wanted a Luke Skywalker again. He wanted Kylo Ren again, and he wanted the everything that A New Hope had, because he believed that was some kind of formula to succeed. But he missed out so many crucial things which that story had, and he basically just ended up making the same fucking movie, but it was a lot faster, a lot more CGI, a lot more kind of poorly written and poor pacing. And I especially hate the reset button bit, just so we can have another rebellion, so we can just have another empire, just so we can, not have the Jedi Academy, because there wasn't one in episode 5.
Well, whether you enjoyed or didn't enjoy episode 7 setups, there actually were setups to play with. Like he actually,
but like from the very start, there's been. I would say that there is. You're gonna find it very difficult to explain Rey's power level. Like I'm sure there was a writer that could do, but it's going to be very difficult.
Putting a Mary Sue into any story is always going to make it questionable. But the plot setups, the scenarios, those weren't. It's kind of like chapter 1. You want to have all your great ideas. You want to introduce them to the audience, and then in chapter 2, you have to slow things down. You have to provide exposition. You have to say, okay, all that stuff that happened in chapter 1. Well, that was a car that flies, and it's called this. And it's made by this company. Like you need all this detail. So that's what episode 2 or whatever chapter 2 had to do. And
JJ had no intent of he just created setups for the sake of making setups. He didn't have any idea of what's going to be behind these. Again, we're going back to the mystery. It's like, oh, he creates some kind of mystery, ooh, but he doesn't actually have any kind of fucking answer. He just shoves it onto the next person, like, oh yeah, you, and then he's upset that someone didn't be respectful towards the mystery. It's like, well, no, you didn't have anything in the box to begin. The box was empty.
The thing is that I would happily write a sequel to The Force Awakens, like as an alternative to The Last Jedi, even though I'd refuse to write a sequel to The Last Jedi. I would be interested in trying to answer who Snoke is and how he seduced Kylo to the dark side, and why Luke hasn't been around for a while, and where Rey comes from and everything. Like, I would have been perfectly happy if they revealed that Rey was also like a student under Luke, and then he hid her on Jakku and like wiped her memory or something as a means to protect her from Kylo. Like that would have would have been a little convoluted, perhaps. It all depends on the execution, but like I would have written something like that just to explain why Rey is so good, why Kylo reacts the way that he does when he hears some girl on Jakku made off with BB-8. He's like, what girl, and everything like that. That implies that there's a girl from his past that he hears that and it kind of triggers him or something. He's just a misogynist. He just hates that a girl outsmarted him.
Well, there's lots of ways we could answer these questions, but we got what we got. And whether you like it or dislike it, there were setups to work with that Rian Johnson did not use. Okay, he addressed them and he dropped them.
Well, no, I would say he did use them, but he was using them in a manner which didn't make any fucking sense.
By either writing nothing or dropping them, exactly. Yeah.
This debate is maybe the dumbest aspect of this new trilogy as a whole.
Well, I'm glad he has standards to figure out which is the dumbest for an argument on what makes The Last Jedi a good movie. It's like, oh
I'm
yeah, the
resisting
editors.
comments about dumb right now.
The editors don't like The Last Jedi because it didn't set up or didn't use the things it set up from Episode 7. It's like, okay, that's the dumbest you've ever heard, really? Okay. I could think of at least 3 or 4 dumb ideas that came from people who like the movie that don't make any sense. But
I mean, I think that like the criticism that Luke wasn't crushing AT-ATs with the Force in this movie. Like, I think that's a stupid argument for why The Last Jedi wasn't good because it's overall irrelevant. Like, you don't need to have Luke Skywalker doing that in order for the movie to be good.
You don't, but I wanted him to.
Don't get me wrong. I would have loved to have seen it. I would have, it's a point in that I'm making in my Rise of Skywalker video where it's like, if there was some fan service with Luke Skywalker actually getting a moment to really shine the way that Han Solo did in The Force Awakens and Vader got in Rogue One, then hell yeah, I would have enjoyed The Last Jedi somewhat, but that doesn't excuse the rest of the movie as is.
Yeah, it sure doesn't. But it would have been really cool to see how Luke Skywalker, Master Jedi, would have what kind of hurt he would have delivered to the First Order. That would have been fantastic. But no, Rian Johnson was too busy being brilliant, so we didn't get that.
Well, yeah, it's like I like that we got Cap lifting the hammer in Endgame, but that doesn't mean that Endgame is overall a well-written, like well-constructed story. So
yeah, that was cool. I would like how Captain America could lift the hammer of Thor.
Yeah, it totally redeems a lot of the tisms of Endgame for me. Is like the feeling I get in that moment is like, ooh, this is doing it for me. It helps. It helps me look past a lot of the issues in the movie that would otherwise like really kick me out. If you didn't have shit like that, and it's like, why am I watching this? Right? If there isn't stuff that I like, stuff that I enjoy seeing in this, then why am I suffering through this really horrible writing?
I'm just really, 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 really glad it was Captain America and not Captain Marvel who picked up the hammer.
Oh no, she could just pick it up. She doesn't need any.
She's the best as ever.
I would have laughed if just halfway through the battle she just picked. Like, nah, it's easy. What are we struggling with this cap?
We probably would have had Captain Marvel like picking up both hammers. They would have knocked out Thor, and both hammers would be on the ground, and then she just dual wield hammers.
What happened to Captain America that he wasn't worthy before, but he was worthy?
No. He was worthy before. So in Age of Ultron, they have this scene where he's like, they're trying to lift Thor's hammer. It budges under Cap, and how apparently, according to the people that are responsible for this, and you can take their word with a grain of salt, but the idea is that once Cap realized that he could lift the hammer, he chose not to like continue doing it out of respect for Thor's dignity,
Really?
Which I think it's perfectly reasonable to assume, just because that seems like that would fit with Cap's character, and it's a reasonable enough interpretation, even if they don't like explicitly spell it out.
I seem to recall the film Ragnarok, where Odin specifically states that the hammer was just there to focus his powers. The power really came from Thor. So I'm kind of curious how that I never seen Endgame, so I don't know. So I'm assuming it translates.
Oh, I believe the explanation is like Odin says something along the lines of anyone who is worthy of picking up this hammer will gain the power of.
Yes, that's exactly what happens. He says whosoever holds this hammer to be worthy will wield the powers of Thor. Basically, yes.
That was actually a big scandal. Actually, it was supposed to be he who is deemed worthy shall hold the powers of Thor, and then they changed it to whoever, so that Jane Foster can wield it.
Back in the day, back in the 70s.
Mm.
There was a what if comic where Jane Foster does indeed pick up the hammer as opposed to her boyfriend, who was the guy who originally became Thor. So yeah,
it's like, oh, fuck you, Thor! It's my hammer now. Fuck you.
Lots of people are worthy. Apparently, we're all humans. Like, yeah, go in a cave, find a magical hammer. Cool.
Who would be a dick enough to like take something from their boyfriend or girlfriend? Like they just pick up the hammer. It's like, hey, look, boyfriend, I'm gonna take this fucking hammer now. It's mine. I'm worthy.
That doesn't seem like that would be very in line with Cap's character, though. Cap seems like way too much of a goody two shoes to like gloat about that. So
we're talking
no,
about
I'm sorry.
Jane Foster.
You're talking about Jane. I'm sorry. I'm seeing chat talking about Cap, and I'm hearing this, and I'm sorry.
All right, let's go back on track. I think we're diverging a bit too much.
I enjoy each film, some more than others. However, it's worth discussing why Marky would even make such a claim, because as far as I'm concerned, she is profound.
Did you just say he enjoys each film? Does that include Rise of Skywalker? Because if he enjoys Rise of Skywalker, it's a big no-no. He's gonna get ostracized from his little cult, or from the other defenders of the Last Jedi. Because
you can enjoy whatever
there's different segments.
Want.
Oh yeah, you can,
There's
but not
different
their
segments
circles.
of
Not
fun.
these circles. Because I remember it was funny because I remember when Rise of Skywalker came out, all these the people who really loved the Last Jedi hated the Rise of Skywalker because it paid too much deference to fans and things. So it seemed I thought it was a taboo that if you loved the Last Jedi, to also love the Rise of Skywalker, especially if you're in this little.
I don't have a hard time believing that, considering that these are the same people that really like to overreact whenever you just don't like The Last Jedi and you express why you don't like The Last Jedi. It's a consistent thing that I notice with The Last Jedi defenders. Like when you just bring up the fact that you don't enjoy it and you talk about why, they fucking overreact to it.
What did Patrick Williams say? If you don't like The Last Jedi, you can no longer be friends, and you're probably a bad person.
You have bad taste.
That's what I mean.
You're boring, and I don't want to be friends with you.
Yeah, they won't be. They choose their friendships based on who does and who doesn't like The Last Jedi. This is what we're talking about.
Here's a super chat from
I'll say
Alexander
the no.
Mosley. Thank you. Sending money before this guy flags you. You know what? I welcome the flag.
Very kind, very kind.
Thank you, but I welcome the flag. I'm really happy if he does, because I haven't heard anything for the past few weeks since he did the first time, apparently. So, yeah, nothing happened.
He said he did on Twitter. He said, I flagged the videos just because they annoyed me. Or out of principle or something.
Well, no, it's something along the lines of we used his work without, and we're hiding behind the guise of criticism. We're criticizing his videos. We're not hiding behind it. This is what we are criticizing.
No,
we're debunking his happiness.
All that we're doing is we're just watching the video. We're just playing it out for this audience, and we're taking views away from him, and we're adding absolutely no commentary against it whatsoever. And we're not altering the original content at all in any way whatsoever. If you go watch this guy's video and then you go watch the stream, there's really no differences whatsoever in the content.
Yeah, that's why there's the same exact time length.
See, I've got just trying to go back to what we're talking about.
Well, time is relative.
Fandom.
Time is subjective, that's right.
Oh God, no. Subjective. Money's subjective.
Yes,
Money's arbitrary. Money's arbitrary, guys. There's no reason behind its value. It's all arbitrary.
Life, everything. Doesn't make any sense.
The mountains, measurements.
Every
measurements are arbitrary.
unit of measurement that you could
system.
possibly use for time, space, anything. It's
Atoms,
just subjective.
electrons. They're all arbitrary.
But as trust so when it comes to the fandom, they're not. I say they're not all like that, and there's lots of different segments of certain fandoms. It's like I've said more on the streams before. So you have the people who like love The Force Awakens, hate The Last Jedi, love The Rise of Skywalker. You have people who love The Force Awakens, hate The Last Jedi, hate The Rise of Skywalker. You have people who love the Force Awakens, love The Last Jedi, love The Rise of Skywalker, and there's infinite like ways of putting it. But I just got a friend who specifically loves all the films, and he likes Rise of Skywalker the least. And when I ask him why, he says it's because it's a film that doesn't say anything. Apparently, The Last Jedi says something; it has a message. And another thing was it's trying to appeal to fans too much.
Interesting.
I was just trying to add off of what LiteratureDevil was saying. I didn't get to quite get it in.
All right. Well, I want to know why an editor who is looking at a film that she edited and comparing it to its sequel and going, "Hey, all that stuff I fixed to make sense, they weren't used," and apparently she's wrong. So,
Sounds like
wrong.
AT-AT is doing a bit of misogynism.
It's possible.
A misogynist. He's committed a misogynism.
Misogynos. It's a misogynos.
Both her and Marion Brandon are trying to save face after being heavily criticized for their editing in The Rise of Skywalker. And for
Okay, why? What happened with the editing of Rise of Skywalker that was so bad? I'm trying to think. Because all the story beats were there.
I'd say like, I'd say that the problem is it's very rushed overall. It seems like scenes, it's like scenes are just going by so fucking quickly, and there's very little time to really breathe.
The thing about Rise of Skywalker is that I usually give them like the benefit of the doubt on Rise of Skywalker, because they were really stuck with what they had to work with, and they did the best they could, I believe, with what they had available.
When you
Well, yeah,
when you look at an editor and their work, their job is to clean up whatever they're given and to make sense of it. And if you say, JJ, this doesn't make sense, or Terrio, Sir Chris, this doesn't make sense, you can only push back so much. But they say, no, we're keeping it. So they could bitch as much as they want until they get fired, but that's as far as it goes. So they're kind of like the last call for QA, but if no one's listening to you, then it's not going to make a difference. So they didn't write the story. They're trying to make sense of it. They're trying to make things connect, trying to make grammar work, trying to make scenes connect. And if you can't do it, well, you argue your points. You say, hey, I can't connect this. They're going to find someone else to do it, or they're not going to care. So they obviously weren't listening to these two people very well. Now, unless they're really bad at editing, which I highly doubt, because they've been in the business for a while, they've done other movies, something's wrong here. Like I wouldn't blame these two ladies for what happened to episode 9.
Oh no, they were. I'm pretty sure they're under a lot of pressure. When I've heard the leaks, they're under a lot of pressure, and there was so many things going on that I'm pretty sure that they did the best they could. That it was they had their hands tied with what they've been given. There was so many mandates coming out. There's so many orders that you must do this and you must do that, and they had to string together a complete mess in the most comprehensive way possible.
Which I would say is pretty hard. So it's like you're giving crap. It's like, can you make this not crap? It's like, I can make it look like a toy, but it's still a toy of crap.
Yeah. So when I'm thinking about what I've seen of the editors, because they edited The Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker and Mission Impossible 3. I think that Mission Impossible 3 overall has like really good editing. I actually consider that movie to be of that movie series. And the reason because this whole thing, them airing their grievances about The Last Jedi came out on a Mission Impossible centered podcast. So the editing in MI3 is not one of the issues with that movie. The only scene in particular that I thought was Philip Seymour Hoffman gets killed. Like his villain character gets killed by a phantom truck out of thin air by coming in from the direction of an alley that it possibly it could have fit. They were sort of noticing the environment. There's no way that it could have been moving that it was. It's very strange. It's a very strange looking villain death. I think like that doesn't necessarily editing being a problem. When I think of like really shit editing, I think of stuff like Taken 3, where the camera cuts like 12 seconds for Liam Neeson simply jumping over a fence.
Here's a super chat from Lord Captain Commander Dunn of the Queen's Guard. Thank you, sir. Why is that nobody defends Die Another Day, Spectre, Batman and Robin, and other franchise derailers like to defend The Last Jedi? They're all bad. Probably because of the popularity and because of the direction that Star Wars has taken since the new series. I think that's kind of the appeal to the left-leaning side of the aisle. That this is a movie for us, and therefore it's good.
It's not just political. Like I say, the political element is maybe a strong component of like the entire thing. But it's not strictly like left-leaning politics that like these films. There's also a fair amount of like centrist and sort of like right leaning as well.
Some people like just legitimately like these films and don't have no problem with you not liking them, which are
It's
those are the good people.
mindset.
Those are just fine. The problem occurs when you don't like the films and they do, and they say you're a bad person for not liking these films, which is ridiculous. Just ridiculous. Like they're allowed to like it, but apparently we're not allowed to dislike it. It goes both ways. Okay?
Yeah.
You just have rights and not let us have our rights.
I was going to make a quick suggestion about the layout of the stream. Is it possible you could maybe put the us over the top chat?
The top chat?
If you put us over the chat and move the chat, and that way you can get everyone in.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Maybe.
I would have to change.
I said top chat.
Let me see. Can we do that?
Because we should be able to fit 4 of us in, but if another person comes in, I'm sure.
Let's try that. Okay, that looks different. Let's see.
I think the only downside is we won't be able to see the very bottom of the chat unless you move it up.
Also, I hate to do this, but I do have to go now. I said I basically only have an hour this evening before we started, but it's great being on with you guys. Sorry,
it's
what?
Always great.
Okay,
it's always
Southpaw,
great
no
to
problem,
be here.
man.
Yeah.
Good luck.
All right.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
See you, bud.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me be on and be a part of this. I will. I'll try to catch you guys at another time. Hopefully, my internet won't be cutting outy as it is today.
All right, we'll see you soon. Take it easy.
I think something's buggered.
Yep. You too.
Oh, we're back. Okay, now we're down to 3.
Okay.
See if I-
You could probably put us down to like this as it was,
yeah.
but you can see part of the Discord over the chat.
Yeah. There we go. Okay. Now we're at least visible. I hope we're visible. Are we visible?
We should be able to fit 3 of us.
So 3 is the magic number. Oh dear. Discord, what are you doing?
Why? Why have you ruined the perfect working system that's worked fine?
Okay.
You didn't need to do this.
All right. All right, guys, we're back. And Southpaw to go. That's fine. But it does leave up some space for our social distancing to make more sense. And even digitally, we look a little better.
So big? Why are the icons so big? You don't need to be big. Why are they big?
Here's a super chat from DB Durick. Thank you, sir. TLJ is the poor man's version of KOTOR 2. You know, I've heard that before. I think it's the poor man retarded version of KOTOR 2. It's that bad.
It's almost like how Batman vs Superman is just the poor man's version of The Dark Knight Returns.
Oh, boy.
They might have just as well have done The Dark Knight Returns. It would have been much, much better. And it would have done the same exact story.
That is like a live action film. In Dark Knight Returns is a live action film. Oh my god, that would be so.
Anyway, let's keep going.
The Last Jedi, but with The Force Awakens itself. So let's take a look at the quote from Mary Jo Markey. Quote, "I couldn't agree more. It's very strange to have the second film so consciously undo the storytelling of the first one. I'm sorry, that's what it felt like." Close quote. Here is my main problem with that statement. It's on record that J.J. Abrams left the door wide open with some various story beats and ideas that could be used if necessary, and if not, it was contractually not an obligation. On top.
Okay, that's...
What do you mean contractually not an obligation? What are you trying to say here? It was optional for the second movie to just disregard a bunch of things they set up? Because J.J. Abrams in his first movie, he set up Rey's parents as a very interesting part. I mean, she's been weighed. That's the whole point of why she's not going off with the Resistance in the first place. She wants to go back to Jakku to wait for her parents, and they made a whole big deal about who Rey's parents were. It didn't really matter who they were at that point in time. It became important when we saw how powerful she was. But her parents were a very kind of visual, very important element of The Force Awakens, because it kept coming up, and she was an orphan, and suddenly she had these magical powers that were just outrageous, for quite frankly. And then now we're stuck wondering, okay, at the end of the movie, who are her parents? Because she's so powerful, she's so gifted in the Force, and her parents must be someone important. Is it Luke? Is it Leia? Is it Han Solo? What's going on here? Is she some secret daughter of some other Jedi? And so we're left lingering on this point by the end of The Force Awakens, and then Rian Johnson comes along with The Last Jedi and then just deliberately debunks that. And that's so yeah, he just undid what J.J. Abrams did in The Force Awakens with what he did in The Last Jedi.
The argument that it's not contractually obligated is like, why would you need a contract for a new writer to understand what came before and say,
exactly.
I can work with this.
Though,
what a ridiculous thing to say. Like you don't need a contract. You shouldn't need a contract to expect your second writer to continue the narrative cohesiveness of your story, of your overall arc, of your trilogy. That's ridiculous.
In all fairness, I don't think JJ knows how to do that.
Yeah, but at least he had the benefit of starting the trilogy. The least Rian Johnson could have done was continue the second movie from the first movie, and could move those plot points along the best he could, even if he didn't know what they were. But he didn't. He actively and knowingly just said, "Nope, not doing that. I'm just going to do my own thing. I'm just going to just redirect this entire series." And then that's why the editors said it just felt like the second movie just completely disregarded everything set up in the first movie, which you don't really do in a trilogy. So this is Rian Johnson's fault. I'm still blaming on his shoulders on this one.
I like how it's. He said he left it wide open. It's like, yeah, you left it wide open to actually do something with, and he didn't. He said, "Oh wow, you have this cliffhanger scene. Well, I don't care. Boom. Oh wow, she wants to belong to somewhere. Well, you know what? She has nobody. She comes from nothing. Doesn't make a difference. Like what?
Yeah, it's a Chekhov's gun rule. Like you show the gun in one scene, and then by this next act, you fire that gun. So what J.J. Abrams was doing, since the idea was to make a trilogy that was one continuous story. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3 would be the trilogy, instead of the original trilogy structure was like kind of almost complete episodes in and of themselves. It's supposed to be one continuous storyline coming off one after another. And so J.J. Abrams, in his defense here, because Rian Johnson is so terrible that J.J. Abrams looks good in comparison here, because J.J. Abrams, he set up the gun, like he set the Chekhov's gun, and he showed us the gun, and then the second movie was supposed to fire that gun, and Rian Johnson said he looked at the guns being set up by J.J. Abrams and said, "No, I'm just gonna leave this on the side. I'm gonna do my own thing."
No. You see what happened was J.J. Abrams had a gun and he showed it to us and he pointed it at Star Wars, and then what came along was Ryan picked up the gun and just straight up shot Star Wars.
He picked up the gun and then beat Star Wars to death with a shovel. I know J.J. Abrams, you're trying to kill Star Wars with that, but I'm going to kill Star Wars my own way. Thank you very much.
What a strange analogy.
Didn't expect Ryan to come in with a shovel and start beating Star Wars to death while JJ had a gun to its head.
I would say Ryan picked up the gun, didn't know how to use it, and started beating someone over the head with it. He's like, "What is this? Is this a club? Oh, okay."
Just boom, around, beat Star Wars to death with the handle. That's what he did. But imagine being so ingrained into defending a movie that you think it required a contract for movie 2 to follow the beats from movie 1. Like,
I will say, that was his video. At least he's actually making arguments. He's not going on about the throne room scene.
The throne room scene?
Oh, fuck's sake. The throne... God damn it. But, at least it's not the video where he goes on about how great a fight scene is without actually talking about the fucking...
Well, he did, but he mentioned 2 flaws, which is hilarious. Because
oh, this fight scene's amazing. I'm going to talk about cinematography. Ooh.
Could you imagine in the original trilogy if movie 1 had Darth Vader, just had him introduced as this really awesome enforcer of the Empire, and right from the first scene where he's coming in after the stormtroopers did their thing on the council ship, and he's walking through, he's threatening people, he's killing guys, he's taking Leia prisoner, he killed Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then he almost died at the trench run on the Death Star, and then movie 2 came in and he no longer exists. Like they just mentioned, oh yeah, he retired. He's no longer here. He kind of he took his retirement benefits and left.
He stole the Falcon. He just stole it.
At the end of A New Hope, they show the Darth Vader surviving that assault, and that he can just come back. And we're all waiting with anticipation. Second movie, what's going to happen? How's he going to enact his revenge? He's the evil bad guy enforcer. And then the second movie comes in and says, "Oh yeah, he died, or he retired. He's no longer here."
No, they open up with him, and he just instantly dies.
He
has a heart attack
right out of nowhere. All that build up, heart attack. And then someone defends it, saying, "Well, they was never contractually obligated to continue that for Darth Vader to continue his role as one of the main antagonists." Really?
Yeah, I'm quite sure that J.J. Abrams was nowhere near the credits of Episode 8, so he has no input whatsoever. Rian Johnson was allowed to do whatever he wanted, and Kathleen Kennedy was okay with that. The editors were okay with that.
I don't think JJ actually cared. I think he was just more than happy to shove it off to someone else.
No, he had nothing to do with it. That's the point. And then he found out later, "Oh, I'm doing episode 9. What? Oh, okay."
Yeah, the second guy, the other guy ruined everything I set up. Oh, that's not as good.
Here's a super chat from DJM Voices. Thank you again, sir. A critique that falls through the cracks. Ray's reaction makes no sense. She didn't know most of these people were real until recently, yet she's disappointed she's not related to them. Interesting. She wanted to know her place in all of that. I remember her talking to Luke.
Show me my place, she says.
Yeah.
Star Wars, back to the kitchen.
And Luke was like, the Jedi suck, and the Force doesn't belong to anyone. Did you know that? Oh.
And Luke Skywalker had all kinds of edgy band posters in his cave. I remember that.
And
Luke just became a hippie.
And he's like,
no one owns the Force, man.
And he stole Leia's lightsaber for some reason because she didn't need it. She didn't want it. It's like, you trained with this weapon, Leia. Why are you giving it to your brother?
I would imagine Luke being really frustrated. I spent all this time training you. You're not even going to use it? Come on. Why did you have me train you in the first place?
This weapon is your life. I'm just going to throw it. Luke, you just take it. Like, if I had a lightsaber, even if I was, stepping down as a Jedi to go do something else, like, you would keep the lightsaber as a last resort.
I think anyone...
you never know what's going to fucking happen.
Has experience. Like, say you played basketball for 5 years. Maybe you might own a basketball. You might not touch it, but you're going to have a basketball lying around somewhere, So
probably. I had one.
I would have expected
soccer balls, but
to be on her flat on Coruscant or wherever the fuck she was.
You might have a lot of stuff being an ex-princess of a destroyed planet, happen to be a part of a military organization. You might have a few, memorabilia running, like just laying around, like boots and guns.
You think so?
You just put the lightsaber with the fireplace, with the blaster.
Yeah, with Han Solo's blaster.
Table.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jumping off the last super chat, isn't it kind of strange? I always thought, now that you think about it, it's kind of strange. I mentioned this in another stream of mine, but it's only been like 30 years since the end of the Return of the Jedi, or it's been canonically 30 years. So, how come Rey doesn't know that they're real? Why are they passing into legend? It's kind of like us thinking David Bowie is a legend, like it was a myth. Like David Bowie never existed, or Marilyn Manson never existed.
I would say that Luke was a very minor part of the rebellion. In retrospect, people like Akbar were a much more prominent part of it. So and then again, the galaxy is fucking huge. So
yeah, but it's
and
like
he's in the middle of backwards nowhere.
The Death Star. Luke Skywalker destroyed the Death Star. You think his military exploits would have spoken for themselves, even if it wasn't the Force.
It's like Jakku is like North Korea and like World War II is going on. And you're like,
that's what it seems like.
What? There was a war? Really?
Where'd all the stuff come from? The down to AT-ATs? I think they just came from the sky. The sky gods were really happy with this one day.
Well, if you want to relate it back to real life, I know I shouldn't really be defending these films, but I don't think it's that much of a stretch that something like that could be considered a legend. I find it a bit weird if Rey came in and already knowing everything, Luke and Leia and just everything off by.
But she didn't have to know them. It's just strange that she thought they were myths, like they didn't exist. Like Luke Skywalker didn't exist. So she could say, "Oh, I never met that guy. I don't really know a lot about him. I just know that he's kind of a hero." Like people know who General Patton is. They know he's kind of a hero, but most people probably won't know the details of his life or what he did. It's just a name you know. It could have been like that, but the thing is about General Patton, I know he existed. I know he wasn't a myth.
I've never heard of him before. Whoever that is. Probably
If you're
something in American history, for all I know.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're American, then you might know who General Patton is because I think he has a tank named after him. Yeah, you just you might not know the details of the person's life. He might have lived a long time ago, but you know he existed, and you know he was a person. So I would see Ray might have heard Luke Skywalker. It's like, oh, Luke Skywalker, I've heard of him. He was a hero, but she doesn't know anything about him, which would have been very interesting. But to think that he's a myth, that's something a little different, I think.
The thing is, this argument is a bit similar to one I've heard about the Jedi in Star Wars. So when it comes, and the explanation I give for that is the Jedi were an organization of, I think, maybe 10,000, a couple 10,000 in the galaxy of, billions and billions of people. So, this is a very relatively, the Jedi are very small, though I would say everyone's heard of them purely because of how long they've lasted and the fantastical nature of what they've done. So, 10,000 Jedi spread across a galaxy, you're not going to see them much. So I think that's the moral explanation of why they're treated at such level. And I would say maybe a similar thing could be applied to, the like Luke and Leia and all.
Well, you think the official Republic, once there was one in Episode 6, that they would have told this story throughout the years that they were in power?
Put it on the horn.
Because they had
No.
They had a temple and everything.
You see, in this day and age, we would have had like Luke just kind of like FaceTiming and TikToking, whatever the hell people do these days, and just like, hey guys, just destroyed the Death Star. Lol.
It gets what did you do today? It's a bunch of likes and retweets.
It's like
make a little gif about the Death Star blowing up or something.
It's like, was it Gotham High? But it's instead of like being like Bruce, it's Luke. Like Luke doesn't have friends; he has followers.
Oh, guys, just found out I Frenched my sister.
Lol. Hashtag incest.
Okay, it's gonna change time. Let's go to Super Chat. Thank you, Owlet,
Hey,
for
Glib.
those bookshelf. Oh God, the rectangles are so distracting. Cheers. Yeah, they're strange. Hey, Glib, how's it going, buddy?
Sorry I'm late, boys.
Yeah.
Been watching.
Well,
Just couldn't make it.
You've ruined it.
You
ruined it, Glib.
You've ruined the chat, Glib. No.
It was perfectly fine. It was perfectly fine until you came along. we fit in there perfectly, and now we don't. Now Smudboy's not in there anymore.
Yeah, I gotta move around. I don't think it's worth it. I'm just gonna use a different solution next time. There's so many.
Tried whatever streaming service that was it LitDev? What do you?
I use StreamYard.
They use that thing. What is?
All right, I'll switch around it next time, guys. Don't worry. But let's keep going on. Let's go on and see what his argument is that the ladies of the editors of episode 7 and 9.
Oh, Super Chat.
Another one. Oh, jeez. Stop distracting me. The rectangles are so distracting. I just read that one. What are you talking about? We're fine.
All right, I didn't listen.
All right.
Again, yeah, I totally agree. These fucking rectangles. Why do you do this to us? It doesn't make any fucking sense.
It's really fucking entertaining though, because there's just so much negative space that's just color.
Why do they use it? They don't need the negative space. Why? Why?
At least now it's far more colorful of the show.
They're like, I know what you guys are doing on YouTube, but I can't do it anymore.
I could change.
Why are they doing?
I wonder how Mahler's going to deal with this.
Well, it's just an aspect ratio I can do, but I have to manually set up the box. It just takes like a minute or two, but I have to. It's gonna look really stupid if I start doing it now. But I could do it. It's just gonna take some time.
But you're gonna have to make us really small, aren't you?
It will be scaled. Yeah, you will be scaled. Yeah, that's true.
Welcome to the stupidity of Discord.
Discord's funny, aren't they? They're great.
But here's the question:
the
did the rectangles undo this podcast?
Yes, they've destroyed it. We have to stop now. We can't do this anymore. It's over, guys.
I think I have a solution. I think this, in your opinion, be sure that the rectangles are not there. If that happens, then they won't be there anymore.
Oh, right.
These rectangles are subjective.
Subjective rectangle.
All right, let's keep going.
Top of that, Abrams produced Rian Johnson's film, which was written as The Force Awakens was being filmed. Meaning that if...
So what? What kind of stupid logic is this? Because they were writing it while it was being produced. Like, what? No, it makes no difference to what Ryan was doing.
Well, you see, all writers know exactly what all other writers are doing. It's kind of a mental connected network.
Ugh.
JJ was worried about Rian Johnson deviating way too far from what his trilogy should focus on, then it's actually JJ's job to speak up.
No, it's not. He was...
What?
Well, no, he doesn't
Why?
have to speak.
Since when?
Speak up to who?
What are you supposed to do? Like, go to Rian Johnson and say, no bad Rian Johnson. Spray bottle? What's going on?
I really do think that they've both had a discussion about this. There's no way they couldn't have.
Yeah, but
there is.
Talked.
Yeah, that's totally. If you have two people, maybe they don't even like each other. Have you ever seen Rian Johnson and JJ in the same room?
Maybe they're not even the same maybe they're the same person.
Maybe they're the same person.
Maybe, like, you never seen them both in the same room. Have you seen Batman and JJ in the same room?
Oh, let me put it this way: they're both screwing each other's career over by mucking up each other's previous movies. So I wouldn't be surprised if they hated each other, and we just haven't heard about it.
Screwing isn't the word I would use. I would say, nuke.
Light speed ramming.
Yeah, light speed ram. There you go. Though I'm sure, like Rian Johnson, didn't he get like another film, something about killers or? I can't remember what the fuck it was. It was the kid, the Knives Out. That's it. I'll try to
Knives Out, right?
Yeah. Here's a super chat from Skulger Thane. Thank you. It's an interesting name there. It'll be tough to get used to the rect cons. Huh.
The rect cons.
He's talking about these rectangles.
Yeah.
Why are they here?
So anyway, according to ATATChat, because they were working close by, if something would have happened, JJ would have said something about it. And
it was his job to look over Rian Johnson's shoulder
apparently
the entire time and say, "No, Rian Johnson, bad boy."
Bad Rian Johnson. Just
it's like
tap him on the nose with a newspaper.
To the corner. Bad Rian Johnson. You see me out in the shed tonight. Okay, you just don't do that. I told you. I taught you better.
Going back to the kennel.
The assumption that they have to write this down in a contract. All my plot points, all my story beats, you have to match them, okay? Or else you can't get the job.
I just want to point out.
Actually, that would be a good idea because then they wouldn't ruin it if they were like, "Yeah, you're contractually obliged."
What happened was that I'm pretty sure J.J. Abrams was just assuming that Rian Johnson knew how trilogies worked, knew how sequels worked.
So I've got an analogy for you. Okay, so the best way I can think of this is, so you have Star Wars, and JJ took a giant shit on it. And then Ryan comes along, as he's a dog in this analogy, he pisses all over. And then JJ's like, what the fuck? Why are you pissing all over my shit? And he throws Rian Johnson out the door. And they just proceed to take it like a piss.
Ryan Johnson says, or J.J. Abrams comes in and says, "What are you doing, Rian Johnson? Did you pee everywhere? You're supposed to take a dump on it, okay? Let me remain consistent."
And you know what it reminds me of? Like, there's a beautiful statue, and it's a statue of Star Wars, and it's made out of marble, and it's like 100 years old or something. And then there are two graffiti artists, and they're competing about who can paint on this marble statue more. And so JJ comes in, and he paints this stupid scribbling of Luke Skywalker on the side of it. And then RJ goes up to it, and he's like, "I don't like this at all," and he paints over it. And then JJ comes back and he's like, "Oh, this is not going this way." And then he sprays over that again. And by the end of it, the statues are ruined.
No, we've got to fix this analogy because there was a third person who was intending to do this. And then JJ just kind of throws him out the way. It's like, "No, you're not doing this anymore."
Well, it's like, Kathleen Kennedy in this metaphor is like the art commissioner for the city, and she's sick of all of the old statues and thinks they're like outdated and stuff. So she hires the modern graffiti artists to paint over and touch up the stuff. But she gives 2 contracts to the same person because she's totally
three contracts.
why are you stapling bananas? I told you to staple oranges to this thing. Stop it. By the way, this is a perfect place to pause this with Finn's face like that. That's exactly how everyone felt. It was just imitating the faces of the audience as they watch these movies.
That's impressive how wide he can get his mouth open. I bet he could fit a whole coconut in his mouth.
You can go far in Hollywood. I know that for sure.
Yes.
We're gonna go far in this video too. We just keep watching.
I'm gonna get myself a drink, so keep.
Alrighty.
He didn't. That leads me to believe that the entire concept of it undoing anything is nothing more than petty deflection when under the eye of criticism. It's very...
Yeah, because J.J. Abrams had no story of telling us that he saw what Rian Johnson was doing and didn't bother to tell anyone. Yep, that means everything was fine. He was totally okay with it.
Give the green light to everything, because obviously J.J. Abrams did not trust Rian Johnson, even though he probably did trust Rian Johnson to know how the basics of how sequels work, but he didn't. I mean, Rian Johnson obviously didn't. So what ATATChan is probably trying to say is that J.J. Abrams was obviously looking over Rian Johnson's shoulder the entire time, all during his writing process, and because he was doing that, everything Rian Johnson did was okay with J.J. Abrams.
I seem to remember Abrams in episode 9 saying that as a result of episode 8, he wanted to be more daring. He wanted to be more daring with episode 9.
So he didn't. Did he not know? Because this is a big point that ATATChat is trying to make. Is that he's going off of the fact that he thinks that Abrams was watching Rian Johnson write this new script as a huge point, because if he's wrong, then his argument takes a big blow, because then it very could have well been that Rian Johnson kind of veered away from what J.J. Abrams tried to do. But his point is that J.J. Abrams probably was looking over Rian Johnson's shoulder the whole time and then greenlit everything.
Well, this is like that story that you used to hear when you were in school or something about a guy that figured out a cheat code for how to get 99 rare candies or something.
They found Mew under a truck or something.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. And it's like you look it up and you're trying to find all the information. You're like, this story can't be true. And it's something that could be true, but it's not the actual reality. Like, you have to do a different thing. It seems like this guy is like making up those stories to justify his point of view. Like, he's making up, my dad works for Nintendo, and so I heard this.
Well,
it's like
this. I have an uncle that works a Nintendo thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Because how does he know anything about what he's actually saying? He's just making assumptions. Like, he doesn't have any receipts or facts.
Yeah, the closest thing we have, I looked at the credits for The Last Jedi. Only Bad Robot is it's related. It's not listed though, but there's no other mention.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there's no.
So
other...
the production company wasn't even the same. It was a different production company.
Yeah, if you look at IMDb, you can see it. It's at the top, but it's not listed. So it's like, okay, he wasn't a producer. He wasn't a director. He wasn't a anything. It's just there. So you're like, okay.
We're not saying he's wrong or anything, but we're saying that give us some evidence as to maybe that would at least lead us to the conclusion that it could have been a possibility that J.J. Abrams was working closely with Rian Johnson. But it's just an assertion, it seems like. This is like a guess, a probably, as he says.
There's no evidence at all to support what ATATChan is saying, because Rian Johnson, he wanted to make his own thing. And then, obviously, if they were like buddy in a team, then their movies would be very similar. And they would be like, yeah, let's do this. Oh, man, you're going to do that? I'm going to do this. Instead, it's like fighting over a lightsaber that shouldn't even be there in the first place. It's like a couple kids. And Daddy George Lucas was like, hey, you guys want to play with this? But he only had one of the thing. And so the two kids are fighting. Yeah. I want to be Star Wars. No, I'm Star Wars. No, I'm Star Wars now. Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying he's right or wrong. What I'm saying is that his flaw is that he needs to bring in some evidence to show us, to at least make it a plausibility that they work together. But he doesn't. He just makes the assertion and he leaves it at that.
He just wants it to be true.
I wanted to point out everyone in the fucking chat was going about finger sex, referencing Major League.
they will never know. They say that in my chat.
They're not going to show that on screen, are they?
They say that in my chat too. Whenever I cover a Star Wars video, they say, "Finger sex, finger sex." That's always with all of these defenders. It's always finger sex with these people.
So embarrassing.
Thanks, Rian Johnson.
They give us finger sex.
It was specifically Major League. It was like, like when they touched fingers, that was sexual.
I've seen more people make that argument actually.
Oh God, no! Please tell me.
I won't let you know. I've seen them.
God.
Anyway, let's keep going.
Very easy to say, oh, it's not my fault. It's actually his fault. It's her fault. It's everybody else's fault. And I also think that.
Oh,
is
thank God, it's not
childish.
finger
I don't
touching. It's
believe
just
Mary and
pointing.
Yeah, we all blame Rian Johnson, guys. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
I do not blame anyone else but Rian Johnson for this, because I mean the special effects people were on point. The editors did the best they could. The music was really, really good. I mean, it wasn't bad. It was just as I expected it to be. It was on point. It was great. The writing, however, was the real crux of all this criticism. It was the terrible part of it. Everyone else did a great job. Everyone else was fine.
And he's making it look as if there's all these finger pointing of other. It's like, well, you're saying it's not these ladies, or you're saying it is these ladies. So what is your problem with these ladies? Because they don't like your opinion, or they contradict your opinion? It's just this bizarre argument. Oh, blame the editors. It's like, we're not blaming the editors. They're editors. They don't make the stories. They fix them, and they can only fix something so much.
That's awesome.
Oh God,
Rian Johnson.
Ryan Johnson.
Don't hump Kathleen Kennedy.
Stop
What?
the dog analogy.
Stop it, Rian Johnson.
Dog analogy. That's not an image I want in my Ryan Johnson humping Kathleen. Oh
Very
God.
good, very good creeper weirdo. Very nice.
Oh,
Think you're
God.
playing along with our analogy. Rian Johnson is J.J. Abrams' really mischievous dog.
You see, he was never even supposed to write the script. Like he just kind of ate it and shut it out again. And then JJ just kind of like wiped it off a little bit, and it's like, oh look, this is the new script.
Okay, we're gonna keep going because I've sort of lost the joke, but okay.
But what is the background?
I don't.
Those eyes. Those eyes.
I don't know, but I like it. I want that picture.
And
I fear no man, but that thing, it scares me.
Whoa.
That's what that's the face the audience. That's the face Rian Johnson wanted the audience to make when.
But you see, that's TLJ Defender. That's them in the cinema. Well,
It's amazing.
every little bit of information.
What?
Look at all the themes, guys.
It's such a weird editing bay that like they still have brick walls. It doesn't look like they have it treated for audio. So just odd.
And this is supposed to be like the two editors who worked on Rise of Skywalker and Force Awakens.
Right.
I guess they're supposed to take the blame, and not the people who actually wrote the thing.
Of course.
They did their job.
I think we're losing a little bit, but I think ATATChat is specifically targeting them for some kind of hypocrisy based on what they've done in Rise of Skywalker or something like that.
Because the quote he put out that they said was that it feels like the second movie really went away from the path of the first movie. That's why he's blaming them, because ATATChat wants it to be a cohesive narrative that Rian Johnson's Last Jedi did not veer off from what J.J. Abrams set up, and the quotes from the editors say different. That's why he's blaming them.
I just want to say, who the hell wants a picture of a TLJ Defender just watching over their shoulder while editing?
I do. Well, I make my videos.
You want a TLJ Defender just hovering over your shoulder?
Terrifying you.
They're powerless. They're powerless. They're just watching me just tear into these things, and they have no power to stop me.
Like, who's saying is that the Enterprise from Star?
It's like torturous eyes. What are you doing? You're debunking my happiness. I can't stop you.
Oh, it is the Enterprise. Oh yeah, at the top left corner, there's the Enterprise.
Right.
Because of the implication.
You know what?
Why do they just have a random picture of the Enterprise? I guess maybe they're working on Star Trek at the time.
The Enterprise.
Oh, yeah,
which
there
Enterprise?
in the background.
It really depends which Enterprise is.
Darkness.
Usually,
darkness.
okay, never mind. Not a cool
You,
Enterprise.
you can tell it's the Into Darkness. It's it's the specific scene where it's falling down out of the sky, and then it comes up above the clouds. That's what they're editing right now.
You guys are reading into this quite a lot in this room.
Oh no, I just saw someone was like, "Is that the Enterprise from Star?" I was like, "Where's the Enterprise? Where's the Enterprise?" I looked on the big screen. It's like, "Oh, that's where the Enterprise is." Look, at the moment, we're just kind of looking at this random screen. So you haven't been looking at anything else for like how many minutes?
Yes, we can stop looking at it. He's listened to the rest of the video, guys. It's okay. You keep going.
Wait, why is there a red and green box down there? What is that? A bin over there? Is that a computer? Is that a lamp? Is that a wire?
Okay, we get it. We're happy with the picture. Okay, people. It's amazing. I know. Let's keep going.
Obligated to like The Last Jedi or pretend that they do. That's not realistic. But they are completely disingenuous about what they are accusing The Last Jedi of while making the ironic claim that their new film never deviated from the previous story. It's easy to say
They made one sentence and he's flipping out over them. It's like, dude, what the hell did they say to you? I couldn't agree
Ended up
more.
making a 7-minute rant.
It's very strange to have the second film so consciously undo the storytelling of the first one. I'm sorry, that's what it felt like. And that's from I think it's a 40 or 50 minute interview from, what is that? Was it Cinema Blend or I can't remember the podcast.
So ATATChat is just trying to correct their opinion then?
I love how everyone's just kind of jumping shit from Star Wars now. Like John Boyega and the guy who played Poe, I can't remember his name, Isaac. Like they're all just kind of shitting on it now.
I think it's obvious. It's pretty obvious. When they were asked that question during that interview, don't say anything. What's your reaction to the ending of the movie or whatever? They all have these bizarre faces. It's like, oh dear.
And JJ looks at them all, is like, what the fuck, dude? But like, there's all the interviews that John Boyega does, and the tweets.
He does not give a crap.
I've gained so much respect for John Boyega. Like, at the first, I didn't really care. He seemed like a nice guy, but then afterwards, like, I love this guy. I love him. Never changed.
Something undid the storytelling, but without a literal example of what she means specifically. It's all hot air coming from someone who just made arguably the worst paced Star Wars film and potentially the worst paced blockbuster.
They made the worst paced Star Wars film. It was all the editors.
Editors'
obviously
fault all the time.
Everyone else put together a nice paced structured film, and it was all the editors' fault that it was so poorly paced. Okay.
I'm quite sure they had plenty of arguments as an editor. He goes, oh.
Just replying to Flint Glockwood, I think Poe actually wanted, Oscar Isaac, I think his name is, actually wanted Poe to die. Like original, something like that.
Oh no, he's
like he said he wish he let like them kill his character off.
Like Han Solo. He wanted to just get me the hell out of here. Don't want to do this anymore. I got other movies to make.
Yeah, it's really interesting because like Daisy Ridley and John Boyega, guy who played Poe, they all seem like really awesome people. Like outside the screen time, they all seem like really intelligent, awesome people. But it's the characters and the people who wrote those characters that just seem awful.
It's like outside of the media. I'll say all apart from Daisy Ridley, all the actors outside seem to actually be pretty good. The only reason why I say Daisy Ridley specifically is because she's been saying some weird
Well, that's Daisy Ridley. She's the star, so she thinks...
She had to be correct. She went to a re-education because one time she said there was only 2 genders out loud in public in an interview, and she had to go through some re-education.
Well, she was one of the people that said, that anyone who says Rey is a man is just sexist, or the term Mary Sue is sexist. And says, there's nothing wrong with Rey. All she wants to do is help people. And there's another time where she ended up saying there was no difference between, like, the oppression that her and John Boyega, And keep in mind, John Boyega was like the son of immigrant in the UK, and he had to earn his way to like the acting school from working really hard. So like some London posh place, and like he had to work so fucking hard to get there. And Daisy Ridley pretty much was just handed everything she's been given, and she got so much shit for saying, "Oh, you know, she's got as much privilege as John Boyega."
Of this caliber ever. And here's an actual quote from Marianne Brandon, which blows my mind. Quote, "It was hard, I think, for JJ and the co-writer to decide what to do after with it. It's like if someone wrote the middle of your novel. Now how do you get to the end of the novel?" Close quote. I feel like someone forgot.
So another quote just highlighting the fact that The Last Jedi really veered off the trail that J.J. Abrams had set forth. That's why ATATChat is so angry at these editors.
These fucking editors are ruining my point for my stupid video.
You're breaking my happiness. You're debugging my happiness. My happiness relies on this being one cohesive narrative, and you're just saying that Rian Johnson ruined it all. You editors who actually worked on this thing.
I can't wait to hear him say how, like, it's totally normal for you to write a novel and get to the middle and have somebody else write it and then like try to come back and finish it.
Yeah, everyone does that. Stephen King, he does that all the time. Obviously, Neil Gaiman, he always writes the beginning of his novel, and he always has some other guy write his middle, and then he writes the end.
And do you know what's weird about this argument? That like he kind of throws so much shade at them for like say, oh, it's it's there, they're the editors, they're being hypocritical. But if they end up coming out and saying that, they didn't like, but they love the films and they don't understand why people hate, he would have made a completely different video, like pointing them in a completely different light. It's not the editor's fault.
Yeah,
the audience's fault.
You see ATATChat saying, well, they worked on the film. They know better than you do. And now he's, but that's not the case. So now they don't know better than you. And I really like the fact that ATATChat is doing the same thing to these editors that we did to him. We criticized his opinion. We just looked over at his opinion and then just commentated on it.
Criticized his terrible argument. Yeah. We didn't criticize his opinion.
Well, he's calling his argument his opinion, which is basically the same thing in his mind. And he's doing the same thing. So apparently he can do it, but we can't. Okay.
We don't have argupinions.
Argupinions?
Argupinions.
Because while we commented on his arguments, he was saying we were trying to debunk his opinion, and so
yeah,
that's what he was saying. So these editors are just giving their opinion. That's all they're doing right now. They worked on the movies and they said, "Well, we worked on these movies, and it seems like The Last Jedi, while we were editing it, seemed to really veer off the trail that J.J. Abrams left." And that's their opinion. That's their 2 cents. And ATATChat is just going insane all over it.
Got to explain to Brandon that JJ originally only wrote one film with Kasdan, which was an adaptation of something Michael Arndt had worked on previously for a few years. Then, after The Force Awakens, the doors were left wide open for the final 2 entries to push the story further. There was never any JJ coming back to finish his novel. It was never his novel to begin with by design.
Because there was no design.
I think we
all
just
kind of handed it to 3 people.
Yeah, I think we all know this. Like, we didn't need to be told that there was no plan. Obviously there was no plan.
And the argument still stands,
you know what? Maybe the Last Jedi scene where Poe is complaining is actually Rian Johnson going up to Kathleen and being like, "What am I supposed to do? Tell us there's a plan." Kathleen's like, "I don't know."
There's someone, some other writer just snuck that in there, and as a cry for help.
Rian Johnson really stealthily like the biggest Star Wars fan ever, and he just couldn't stand to see them ruin it, so he had to ruin it first.
He wanted to make he wanted to make Disney Star Wars fail so that we appreciate the prequels and the original trilogy, which is the case as far as I'm concerned.
He's the Dark Knight of directors. He's like, we're gonna hunt him, we're gonna hate him.
Have you ever played Metal Gear Solid 3? He's basically the boss, where she took the blame for everything, and she just was buried as a traitor, but she saved the world.
And then we stand over Ryan's grave, saluting him. All the Star Wars fans,
the lone soldier who was a sin eater for everyone else. And this does he actually saved the Star Wars franchise instead of destroying it. It's just that no one will ever know of his value.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, thank you, ATATChat. I have learned.
Here's a super chat from Alexandra Mosley. Thank you. ATATChat just doesn't like women. Well,
Oh yeah. If you criticize a woman, it means you don't like all women. That's right. He's a misogynism.
Misogynisms.
So I think we can all agree here that we knew that there was no setup, there was no planning. They didn't know how they were going to plan out this trilogy because there was no plan. We know that.
Yeah. Here's the thing. They did something like this with John Wick. But John Wick is a thriller. I think they had different directors for some of these movies and different people who worked on them. And that turned out fine because it's kind of a thriller. You're just waiting for one thing to happen. Okay, this is amazing. What thing's going to happen now? But with Star Wars, it's supposed to be a well-crafted, cohesive narrative starring a person who goes through a cycle of change and an arc. John Wick doesn't really change. He's just John Wick who is really already awesome because of his years of experience, is trying to deal with one obstacle after the next. So it works in that formula. But with Star Wars, it's supposed to tell a nice cohesive story of a character changing from the first movie to the last. And it's supposed to be well crafted. It's supposed to be an ongoing adventure, telling you the struggle of the resistance versus the oppressive First Order. And so we're supposed to have where we expect is a nice cohesive narrative. And so it doesn't really work when you have one guy write the beginning of your novel, another guy write the middle of your novel, another guy write the end of your novel, and this sort of formula, the Star Wars formula. So the previous argument still stands. It's because J.J. Abrams was never meant to finish the quote unquote novel in this metaphor. It doesn't mean that it was a good idea to give 3 different sections of the novel to 3 different people.
That's the biggest issue, where somebody could say that there are good versions of that. I think the best version of that would be Alien and Aliens, because it's 2 really good directors making 2 different kinds of movies, but they both kind of respect the story. And so you get a continuity between the stories.
So one difference is that Alien and Aliens aren't part of a continuing episodic storyline. You know, they're
vaguely related to each other. One precedes the other one.
But the thing is about Star Wars is that, you know, it's kind of like splitting a story into 3. However, when it comes to Alien, the movies are pretty much, you know, their isolated story.
I think that there's enough. If you go back and watch Aliens, there's enough of of her calling back to what she lost before that influences her character, which makes it such a good sequel. But moreover, my point here is that the original Star Wars had multiple different directors, but the writing was all done by George. It was all done by a specific set of people because he wanted the through line to make sense. You can get different directors to come in and make footage. You have to be able to have a strong producer. So if they were out there trying to replicate the conditions of the original trilogy by hiring new directors but keeping one consistent story, they had to actually follow through with that, and they didn't. So we cannot claim that there was a plan that worked out that was similar to Star Wars, the original one. And we also can't claim that there was a strong producer at the head of it that knew which styles would go together or which styles would clash and then how to bring that out. You know, you can make a film where Wes Anderson makes one chapter and then Paul Thomas Anderson makes the next chapter and then fucking Sam Esmail from Mr. Robot finishes it. They all just have to accept each other's work. And that's the primary thing that we don't see in this, is that nobody that works at Lucasfilm seems to accept anybody else's opinion at Lucasfilm at face value. It just is this giant war about the soul for this thing, and the soul wasn't even there in the first place because that was George. Anyway, that's my tangent.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, this is a very strange thing for him to say, and it's not really an argument. It's like, yeah, it's obvious, but please get to a point so we can see what you're trying to say.
So that statement is ridiculous. And what's kind of hilarious is I think it's almost like mystery box karma. The Force Awakens didn't so much tell a story as set up a potential for one to occur. It gave us all these ingredients for something more significant. And then Rian Johnson took all that and cooked the main course, cutting away all the fat that was.
The fat?
I think that
The
is
what?
giving far too much.
No, J.J. Abrams served you steak. Then Rian Johnson came by, took the steak away, and gave you like a veggie burger. And it's not cutting the fat. That's changing the whole game.
He gave you a plate full of nothing. The plate, you know how attractive the plate is? Wow, look at that great plate. There's no food on it. Thanks.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Better
That was a
analogy.
thing from a previous video.
Since we're going with the food analogy, a better analogy is, J.J. Abrams had a plate and had one of those covers on, and like he was coming over and it's like it's just a note that says, the filling will be in the next course. It's like, okay, well, I guess we'll just wait. And then Rian Johnson just comes along. It's like, oh look, here's my course. Like slams it on the table. It's like, you better fucking like it.
It's a whole new meal. I think we did make that analogy one time in a previous video. But the food is terrible. But look at the plate. Isn't it just fantastic looking?
Yeah.
Oh, it was because of it was the one that Shadiversity was in, because like the cinematography was the serving of the combat and the choreography. And this entire time, ATATChat was talking about the choreography when he should have been talking about the fucking fight. In a fight scene.
Yeah, so the idea that Rian Johnson cut the fat and left only the good stuff is... I don't know.
He cut all the meat out and left the fat so that we could chew for hours.
He did not cut the fat. That is a ridiculous thing. He changed the meal.
I wouldn't even say he left fat. He just got rid of everything. There's nothing.
It's like it's that remember those chips that had the olestra in it?
Oh.
So that caused like diarrhia. That's what he did. Trimmed the fat and replaced it with olestra.
Oh.
So now we're all leaking from the anus.
Like I've ever seen the video where it's like someone ended up covering chips with laxatives and just throwing them on the beach. That's like the cinematic equivalent of Star Wars at this point. Just, if you want to go to the food analogy, just throwing chip out there, just covered with laxatives, and just letting seagulls just rain shit all over the franchise.
I love food allergies because it's like everybody needs it, and then the risk is always there. If you mess up like food, then it tastes awful and everybody knows it. Like there's no denying it, that kind of thing. And then it's so obvious when somebody's palate, like you ever meet somebody who they never refine their palate, they're like afraid to eat meat, or they don't like certain flavors, they have like a really basic palate. That's looked down upon. Like cuisine, no matter what, is held to a high standard within human culture because we just get so bored with eating the same thing over and over again. So it's great to go to food analogies because it creates that necessity, it's got artistry, and it's implied that we need variety with it. So I love that art argument, and it's so useful against people that think that art is this like wishy-washy like mental floss where it's just, oh, it's so amazing and everything is incredible and subjective, and fuck that. I like taste. Taste is a great metaphor.
Someone was telling me in the chat that my book that I just released a few days ago, I have too many steak analogies.
Like, somebody get this man a steak.
Those are my favorite. Steak is amazing.
You just like steaks too much.
Well, steak is delicious.
It's a vampire story about a butcher.
The food analogies are just too perfect, and they come up too much, and they make me hungry. It's like, no, don't do this. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning right now. I don't want to be hungry.
Well, I love it because it's a product. It's a commercial product. It's cuisine and artistry, and it's something that you consume to nourish your self and your spirit. Yeah. Like if you don't eat, if you starve, you'll die. And I think that to a lesser extent, art is a little bit like that. If we're starved of art or starved of stimulus, we start to mentally fall apart.
The thing is, good and bad food is a lot more click. So, for example, if the food is rotting, then obviously it's bad food. If the food is tasteless, if the meal is undercooked, like there's a lot more to easily say it's just bad. But when it comes to, there's a lot more information there. So you've got to watch the entire film. Like a couple hours long, and you got to process all that information to finally come to the conclusion if it's good or bad. With food, you just kind of pick it up, you shove it in your mouth, and is it good or bad? If it's McDonald's, it's obviously bad. But if it's something,
I think
it's Tesco's cookie, maybe it's a mediocre.
The thing that makes it so awesome is that it's kind of a subconscious process. Food, eating, and satisfaction and stuff that comes from that. It's not academic. It's like, I like the food and I eat it. So it kind of negates all of these arguments. Like, somebody that is going to try and force themselves to enjoy something is not going to be having a good time. And it's a big difference between that and like acquiring a taste for something, like how people ease into drinking or whatever. It's all of the results that you get from eating are not mental, it's physical. And so it's very hard to argue with physical impulses. If someone feels ill from something, they don't want to do it, and the body will reinforce that. Whereas with a lot of these concepts or idea-based artistic mediums, it's really hard to elicit that same response, because people are always trying to measure in their mind if it's possible that they're right or wrong about their opinion on something. It's not like a visceral reaction, where I kind of wish it was. I wish it was just that obvious as food, that something in a movie makes sense or an emotion hits well. But we have these weird arguments where people are trying to use subjectivity in art to fight that natural taste, that natural instinct that we are trying to enumerate on in these conversations. So
anyway, I was going to play a video, but I won't. I'll go back to the original video.
Okay.
It's really necessary. The Force Awakens was a lot like The Rise of Skywalker in regards to relentlessly moving the plot forward. But to be frank, in regards to storytelling, there wasn't that much going on. And I don't fault The Force Awakens for that, because it was a basic introduction back into the Star Wars franchise on the big screen. Familiar and easy to digest was necessary for the general.
There wasn't that much going on. They blew up Starkiller Base. This is the picture of them blowing up Starkiller Base. They dealt a horrific blow to the First Order. Han Solo died. I mean, there wasn't much going on. There was a lot going on in the story. They brought in a lot of elements. Things happened. A lot of things happened in the Force Awakens. Whatever you might say, they had a lot of narrative problems. A lot of it just kind of skimmed out a lot of characterization themes. Really, just kind of damaged the Star Wars legacy. But one thing you can't say is that there wasn't a lot going on. They put a lot of events. They string a lot of events together.
I seem to recall
I grit my teeth every time someone says, oh, the Force Awakens was necessary because it's easy to digest and blah, 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 blah. You did not need to make a shitty fucking movie to start this trilogy. You did not need to make a shit film to do that.
I know it might be a novel idea, Hollywood, but you can make a good movie to start a trilogy with. John Wick did it.
It's like, oh, but it needed to recycle all the elements from A New Hope because that's how it starts. No, that's a fucking stupid argument. No,
that was an excuse to be lazy.
Exactly.
To be lazy.
Well,
I remember I had a teacher in high school, and I was talking to him about The Force Awakens, saying I absolutely hate it. And he said, oh yeah, I had a problem with the film. I don't think it's a good film. However, I think it's necessary for the Star Wars to move on as a franchise if we have this bad film now, so we can have good films later. And this was before The Last Jedi, so I don't know if that's opinion has changed since then. But it's such a terrible argument to make. Like, you can't make a good film to start off a trilogy. Like, The Force Awakens was the only way we could have had the start of a trilogy. I hate it. Go away.
Well, whether you hate it or love it, the setups did exist, and we all knew they were there.
Yes.
Lots of stuff
but
happened.
it's still a bad film.
There was a Force Vision which went crazy. It had like all these cuts, and we're like, "What the hell is this chick looking at?" We saw all these knights, and they were in the rain, and then nothing for a whole other movie. So.
Yeah, they set so much up in the first movie. I had a lot of problems, but you can't say nothing happened. They can't say there's nothing going on. Like, there's two guys walking in desert for the first movie, and then Rian Johnson came in and made stuff happen. No, it didn't. It wasn't like that.
Audience. I don't care what anybody says. That is a fact. When we
Whoa. Let's go back. He's talking about facts now, guys. This is important.
That was a fact. That nothing was going on.
Was a basic introduction back into the Star Wars franchise on the big screen. Familiar and easy to digest was necessary for the general audience. I don't care what anybody says. That is a fact. When we ask ourselves...
No, it's not.
I don't think
you didn't need this film to be bad. It wasn't necessary by any means. You didn't need to make a bad film. It was fuck's sake. I hate this argument. I fucking hate it.
Because every single trilogy that ever existed had to start off with a copy of a previous movie, even if it's a brand new series.
Stop, AT.
Like, did you know that the first Godfather movie was had to copy some other movie first, so that it could be generalized and easily digestible for a general audience?
It's just a bunch of nonsense words just cobbled together. It's like, oh, it's just the nonsense. It doesn't apply. It just doesn't apply. It doesn't apply.
The Christopher Nolan trilogy had to start off with like a straight up copy, and didn't make any new changes. Didn't make any new interesting entrances or any new takes on the Dark Knight trilogy, on the Batman trilogy. It didn't make it into like a more realistic world or anything like that. It was a straight up copy. It was a poor man's copy. It was a soulless copy of a previous story. So this would make it easily digestible for the general audience. No,
you see, you
didn't have to do that. Okay, you didn't have to be lazy.
You see, you have to. You just have to. Apparently, you just have to make a bad film. No, like people are forcing you with guns to make a bad film.
Also, it wasn't just a basic. What does he mean by basic introduction? It was, even if it was basic, it was still introduction. Doesn't mean you can just disregard what happened. Just do your own thing. That's not how trilogies work.
Also, I thought everything was subjective, so how can you say it's a fact that it was easily digestible?
So there's an objectivity now. Now he's trying to defend it. So it's a confirmed fact. I don't care what anyone says. Objectivity exists when I say it exists, and it doesn't exist all the times.
I think there's a difference between even objective conclusions aren't facts. It's kind of like the scientific method. You have a hypothesis, you observe. And you say, hey, when I drop this pen, it falls to the ground. I think we'll call that gravity. And we have all this math to show how that works and the rate of acceleration and why dense things fall and why.
Oh, I think that was an apple. But...
Well, whatever analogy you want to make with an object, it's like we don't.
Well, it wasn't an analogy. It's what actually happened.
We don't really know what gravity is exactly. It's not a fact that it's there. It's a theory of how things work. It's the same thing with objective conclusions. It's not a fact that there's an objective conclusion. That's a process that we go through to determine quality. It's a very strange thing to say that these sorts of things are easy to digest are facts, or it's a factual basis to say it's easier to read. I could read a children's book, and it's designed for a younger audience because of their reading level, but I don't know. I'm not having problems understanding The Last Jedi the same way I'm not having problems understanding The Force Awakens. I get it. It's not hard.
But I don't understand why they think that it is. It's not there's nothing deep about The Last Jedi. It's like somebody that I'm not even going to make a metaphor, but it's like the movie poses as saying something profound, and then when you actually think about it, you go, "I knew that like when I was 7."
Well, what I would say to that is,
did you know war is bad?
Quite
Did you know that both sides profit off of the same thing? War.
Did you know that happens? There are people who sell weapons to soldiers, and that's how soldiers get weapons. Did you know that? They don't soldiers just don't materialize weapons out of their hands. It's I know you didn't know that, but the good thing we had Rian Johnson here to tell us that these things happen.
Oh, you like to go see horses run around in a circle? You know how bad that is for them? Okay? Child slavery is okay, but not horse slavery.
Yeah, child slavery, I guess it's fine or something.
You know, failing at life, that's a great teacher, guys. You're failing in everything in life. Yeah.
Obviously, the greatest teacher failure is,
I had never really failed until The Last Jedi came out. Then I learned about failure. I was just successful, Mary Sue style.
Every other movie I ever watched, I had no idea all the characters were failing. I just didn't realize that.
I was trying to say about Glib's comment.
Yeah.
So, so you said that the film says nothing, but like people draw so many themes and messages out of it. I'll say that's pretty typical of most modern art. So, like, and having art, which it makes the message like it has no message. It says nothing, but the fact that it doesn't say anything is what makes people say, oh, look, it says all these things. It's what it says to you because, because it doesn't say. It's like a white canvas. It's like, oh, what does a white canvas says to you? It's like, well, it doesn't say fuck all. It's like, oh no, it's the emptiness of my soul. It literally doesn't say fuck all. It's an empty canvas.
Well, it's like, to me, it's a fear of irrelevance. And so they're trying to make themselves relevant by stating all these things that sound and are presented as if they're profound. But when you actually look at it, you're like, why did you get the job? You're not qualified. And they're like, that's subjective. No, it's not. You're unqualified. And like my opinion is not toxic. It's accurate. And you're the one that is getting paid to do all these things. And this is an injustice. So we're going to talk shit about it.
You just watch the movie. And these are basic themes. I could either watch Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi, or I can watch like Captain Planet or something. And it's I get the same exact lessons.
The thing is, it's like learning from your mistakes. It shouldn't be a fucking theme. It's that basic. It's so basic to learn from your mistakes. It's a basic character thing.
I could watch the Magic School Bus and get the same lessons. You're not breaking new ground here, Rian Johnson.
But actually, I think that was a Red Letter Media joke. That you would learn more morals, and you would probably get a more satisfying ending from a Magic School Bus episode, and the characters would be more well defined.
Oh, compared to Rian Johnson, no doubt.
Yeah, because like it's like, oh, who's Finn or Poe or whatever, and it's always some generic answer, and you might as well just be like, oh, that's the guy that always cracks a joke.
Yeah, I still remember Arnold and Ralphie. I still remember all those characters.
Ralphie, like all that shit.
Carlos was awesome. He was always coming in with these awful puns. It was fantastic.
I love that meme of his face. There's no meme of there's no sequel memes that are good. Meanwhile, the entire prequel movie can be memed. You can just meme any part of it.
All three prequels are just
surprised to be sure, but a welcome one.
Chancellor Palpatine, meme lords are our speciality.
Meme lords.
See, I am the sinner.
I like that one. It's my favorite. I like all of Palpatine's lines are just so quotable.
I know.
In the prequels.
I am the sinner.
Unlimited power.
It's coarse and it's rough.
The Jedi and the Sith are the same in almost every way. Are you serious? Because you seem pretty evil, Mr. Palpy.
No, Anakin was just confused the entire time. He's like, "Oh, how does Sith work? What do? How do life make over again? Teach me."
The movie Revenge of the Sith makes a lot more sense when you realize that Anakin was going through morphine with he couldn't make a good decision. He was too high and he's sweating and he's just like can't think straight.
And he was on those he was on like some amphetamines or something because he had to deal with this war for years and he just couldn't take it.
I just want to point out
he's got PTSD and stuff. That's why he's having visions of Padme dying.
I just want to point out that any story where your character learns from their mistake without having to point it out to the fucking camera is better than The Last fucking Jedi with its themes.
Did you know that you could learn from your mistakes? Whoa!
Doesn't he literally say
brand new idea?
I will not be the last Jedi. Doesn't he say something like that?
I don't remember. I can't remember this movie. I watched it twice. Almost 3 times. It's hard to remember.
Like in the Kylo Ren fight, I think you talk.
I think so. I think that's the implication, and so it's like you could have Peter Griffin in the audience going, he said it. Because can you imagine if there was like the Rise of Skywalker was the same way? It's like this is not the fall of the Jedi; it's the rise of Skywalker.
They might as well have just said the title in the movie.
They should. They really should.
This is the Phantom Menace.
The greatest.
Well, this is the Attack of the Clones.
When you have like a title like Spider-Man, you expect a guy called Spider-Man in your freaking story.
You expect Palpatine at the end is like, this is the revenge of the Sith.
The best one would be what's your name? Han. What? Who are your people? My people? I don't have any people. Okay, you'll be Solo, a Star Wars story.
That's his full name. That's his full name. Don't forget it.
Yeah, Han Solo, a Star Wars story.
That's his full name. His real last name is a Star Wars story.
Don't remind me of that fucking film. Dig.
Han Solo, a Star Wars story. Captain of the Millennium Falcon, a Star Wars story.
Captain
Guys,
Story, Commander
sounds
Story.
like he's like you'll be Han Solo. He has no people. It's like, why did you need his fucking name explained?
My favorite
In
one
the
of those
history of
was
anything.
Han.
Who needs their character's name explaining about where they got their fucking birth name?
Yeah, that was really disappointing. But I
So
can't
what
believe
example are you
no
gonna
matter
go-
what direction you go in, it's like, oh yeah, Disney movie. Where you want to be disappointed? How do you want to be? Pick your disappointment. I want to be Boba Fett
Dialogue,
disappointed.
action, space battle, all of them.
To an extent, I'm happy the Obi-Wan film and the suspected Boba Fett film were kind of put on ice because, dear God, imagine what they would have done to
Yeah,
those fucking
because
characters.
Boba Fett's such a
If they
great
can-
character to make a film. out of.
If they do, well, no, there is actually Boba Fett does actually have like some characters, not in the film.
If you had gone back to 2010 when I was like 19 or something and went back and said, hey, Glib, in the future, you're not going to be excited about the Star Wars films they announce. You're going to be excited about the Star Wars films they cancel. And I'm like, what are you talking about? How is that even possible? Star Wars is the best thing ever. It's like so good. Hasn't been ruined yet. It's not
2
even
years
2015.
later, it's bought by Disney.
Oh, I got a super chat. Here's Alexander Mosley. Thank you again. Sonic says, war profiteering, that's no good. Okay, well.
That's no good.
If you find your country ravaged by war because they're making a profit off of it, that's
No good. Oh, thank you very much, Sonic. I didn't know that was bad. I didn't know
Charlie
that
says war profiteering is bad.
all these bombed out ruined buildings, these ruins of what was once a city. I didn't know that, and it was caused by war. I know that was bad. I know that was no good. Thank you, Sonic. Appreciate that.
I think my favorite
Bobby
shitty
Fett.
line from The Last Jedi is what was it? That's how we're gonna win, not by killing what we hate, by saving what we love. That's the worst line in Star Wars. That's worse
It
than
makes no fucking
it's sand.
sense.
Because at least we know that Anakin likes sand. I mean, hates sand.
Yeah, you know. Well,
Likes,
you
like-
obviously weren't paying attention to the film, and to an extent, like if you look at the sand comment, it is stupid. However, it's still true. It's coarse and it's rough.
It's still
and it does
true.
get everywhere.
Yeah, there's nothing inaccurate. It's just that we're laughing at how inept George is at romance dialogue when we hear that. But it's not like what they're saying, it doesn't drive the story forward. It's just clunky. The prequels are clunky, unrefined, and could use a little bit more work. But the sequel trilogy is like maliciously incompetent. And it's amazing to watch.
Okay, so we go to the comment there. You don't. That's how we're gonna win. Not fighting what we hate, but saving what we love. It's like, but okay, so you can't kill what you can't fight. It's okay.
It's like, all right,
What is
all
this
right,
called?
boys. We got Hitler dead to rights, and I want them Nazi scalps. But we don't got to kill him. I just want to save you boys.
By sending you into the battlefront.
That's how we're gonna win. Not fighting what we hate, saving what we love. Sound good?
All right.
Sir, that makes no fucking sense.
Sir, are you high now?
It's like the moral concepts that you can take from one story. You could probably put them in another story, and the meaning would still be the same. It's just that some characters aren't going through the same moral, questioning. They're the trials and the conflicts that make a story interesting. Sequel trilogy does not have that. The sequel trilogy is hammering the audience home over the head with platitudes instead of making poignant questions. Like when Luke and Obi-Wan in Return of the Jedi are arguing about a certain point of view, that's a big opening question to the audience about the Jedi and about what's good and what's right. Obi-Wan doesn't have a clear answer for him. It's like, from a certain point of view. A certain point of view? It's like they don't want to hear that. Luke wants a definite answer. But at the same time, he goes through a moral question himself where he's like, I can't kill my own father. Then the Emperor has already won. Well,
Sounds like he goes through an arc or something.
It's like they go through an arc, and neither of these characters are perfect characters. Even though the mentor character is the one that's supposed to give information, by the end of the story, they're now having a dialogue with each other that's on the same level where neither of them are sure, but both of them are concerned that it could go this way or that way. And it brings the choice back around. It's the same thing with Neo. Neo gets put in a position where he cannot win. And that creates the philosophical question. Why do you persist, Mr. Anderson? Because I choose to. It comes down to choice, which is what we like to see with our characters and what defines our characters. So you can have all of these concepts, and then the characters will be defined by these different choices. But in the sequel trilogy, Rey is always going to try and make the right choice because she's a Mary Sue. And the characters are not defined well enough for us to have any philosophical questions about the conflicts that are within them. There is no conflict within these characters because they're not really defined. They're at war with the directors and writers are at war with each other over the definition of these characters, and the audience gets that, not who the characters actually are. There's no satisfying arcs to these characters because who are they? They're placeholder characters for they might as well be placeholders for author inserts and ideas that the authors have instead of being fleshed out characters that exist for the world. And I think that there's something that's going on with writers these days, like the SJW types, where I think they know that they're not as good as they say they are. They get put in these positions and then they have to double down and defend their decisions. And the other people that follow them and think that those are the people that they look up to, they don't want to hear that all of them are going down the wrong path away from actually making content. And so we get this toxic, unfortunately, environment where people hate us for telling the truth about what they're doing. And like ATATChat has to come up with all these conspiracy theories about how this worked and ideas that don't exist in reality about like how JJ should have told Rian Johnson not to do something when all the evidence shows that Rian didn't give a fuck about what anybody did. So I don't know. That's another one of my tangents, but it frustrates me to no end that we can't just speak plainly and get listened to plainly about these very obvious storytelling shortcomings.
Okay, I gotta catch up on some super chats here. Mark and 3D, thank you. You know what rhymes with Kylo? Kendo. Well, that's an old joke, but oldie but goodie. And
it's not old. It's only a couple weeks old.
Well,
I think there's more evidence showing that Rian Johnson actually didn't know what he's doing at all than maybe J.J. Abrams looking over his shoulder the whole time.
Because it might have actually made some sense. It would have been stupid, but it still would have made some sense if Abrams said, "Hey, you know that thing I did the last movie? Yeah, use it." Here's a.
Okay, so I have a question for one of the people. And who's more annoying, Rose Tico or Jar Jar?
Rose Tico.
Yeah.
I don't understand Rose Tico, so I can't say she's annoying. It just doesn't make sense with her. I don't know what she's trying to do.
At least Jar Jar Binks shot the enemies and then ram into his own allies.
Yeah, he was incompetent, but he did the right thing. Like he's doing.
I just want to point at Jar Jar. This is going to sound really strange. However, Jar Jar has legitimately good arc in Star Wars: The Clone Wars. At least what I remember being a legitimately good arc. I think it's part of the Lost missions in the half of season 6. And he has an adventure with Mace Windu, and you actually get to explore his character a little bit, and it's actually good. I never thought I'd ever say that about Jar Jar.
I gotta read this.
He was a big bad bomb general or something.
Go ahead.
Here's a super chat by Taker610. If you kill your enemies, they win. And that's from Justin Trudeau.
Yes.
In case you don't know, when you ever speak with people, you have to wear your face mask, or else you're going to be talking moistly. So don't talk moistly at people, guys.
Don't talk moistly at people.
Yeah.
And remember, if you kill your enemies, they win. So apparently, according to Justin Trudeau, Nazis won.
Trudeau should be the Jedi Master character in The Last Jedi.
Justin Trudeau is what people think Jediism is supposed to be about.
Yeah, exactly. If you let your enemies destroy you and cut your head off, you win.
You win. It's like they're Wimplo. I am bleeding, making me the victor. Try my face to your fist style. That's what they think Jedi is.
It's like that scene in Monty Python where he's fighting off against the knight and keeps cutting limbs off. It's just Justin Trudeau. That's cultural. We're becoming more vibrant as you cut my limbs off.
Oh, you're running away, are you? Well, come back here. I'll bite your legs off. He has no arms or legs.
This is the extreme event of postmodernism taking too much of your brain. You just How you think?
But we are postmodernists. We are now making fun of the postmodern condition, and from that we will grow a new type. The what?
I just remember the debate on EFAP between Shadiversity and what was it, Remarkable Republican or something.
Oh God.
So someone on this length, and he ended up saying what Knights were some kind of postmodernists.
What? What?
Oh God. Yeah, I don't know.
guess that
He's
means,
so crazy.
He's
He's like
says in chat, let's see here. Jord Kell says the Skywalkers are dead, so they won.
yes.
Yes. According to Justin Trudeau and according to people who defend the Last Jedi, according to what they think Jedis do or the philosophy of a Jedi, then yes, because they're dead and they all died and let their enemies trample all over them, they won.
You see, Order 66, the biggest Jedi victory in history.
Yeah, because they all died. And Palpatine lost. I bet you. Who's laughing now, Palpy? Who's laughing now? You're sitting on that throne, a pathetic imperial throne, commanding the entire galaxy, while they're dying in the ditch. So who's laughing now, Palpatine?
So if Flint Glockwood is saying postmodernism is a mental disorder, Neil's saying postmodernist rots culture. I think that it is a projection from people that are trying to create a coping mechanism. That to me is like they can't. If I was bad at like I'm not very good at soccer, let's say, because I just didn't grow up playing soccer. I don't like running for a long amount of time, whatever. And if I just said, you know what, I'm not bad at soccer. I'm really good. You know, I kick the ball pretty well, and it's all subjective anyway. That's what that sounds like to me. It sounds like somebody who's like, I don't know shit, but I'm gonna try and justify the fact that I don't know that because I feel like I am important.
I never played soccer before, but I know you might think I'm terrible, but my subjective opinion, I'm the best in the world. So therefore, I'm the best in the world.
Yeah.
Besides, everybody knows that soccer is a social construct and the rules don't really matter. So in some ways, I'm pretty good. Like we could play a different version, of soccer.
Anyone who doesn't, points don't matter. Anyone who reads Derrida or Foucault or any of those postmodernists, if you don't run away laughing, like you've just been snookered. And you're wasting you're wasting hours and hours of your time reading this crap.
Well, they always quote Hume. People, I keep running into subjective people that are
always Hume. It's
always Hume, and it's like the ought is condition. And I'm like, you realize that people in this chat are smart enough to sit at the table with all these philosophers and ask them legitimate questions. They're not gods. They're not demigods. My question to Hume about his conditioning is that he was not looking at history backwards to see if things have like a momentum that are going forward into the future, not like destiny or determinism, but just the idea that there is a functional progression to the universe that can be observed. He's not paying attention to that. So I always get into all these conversations with people about how objectivity works on such a absurd level that it gets to people discussing Hume, which isn't even postmodernism. So like it's rooted in appeal to authority. It's rooted in an appeal to what is colloquially known as correct.
Yeah,
that's not how science works.
That is an ethics problem, not an aesthetics problem. So I don't know why that's even relatable, but I guess you could apply it to
it sounds
try. But
it sounds good to them. And in the game of soccer, in the very end, the game of soccer, you don't win by scoring goals on your opponent. You win by protecting your teammate.
Like what's the dude? What's the dude that's like one of the best right now? The dude that plays on the Barcelona team. I'm not.
What I really like is Zidane from a long time ago.
Oh well, Zidane was the guy. He was one of the hit people. He headbutted
there's Ronaldo.
But I mean, Ronaldo is good. Yeah, Cristiano Ronaldo. Yeah, that's correct. Okay, so imagine being subjective and being like, Ronaldo is not, you can't say he's objectively good at soccer. Come on. Because soccer, the way that it's constructed is football, whatever, hand egg. The point of football is that it's constructed and it's arbitrary the way the rules are. So he's good at doing these things. And you're like, yeah, because that's the game of football. And then they have to come back and they have to find a way to make it so that the rule set that was created, that is what we know as the object that we've given the definition of football or soccer or whatever, this is how the game works. They deny how the game works because they don't want to admit that Ronaldo might be really good at football where they suck. They want to equate somehow without justification using objectivity. And this denial is, they use every kind of shield in the book. It's like, can we just get down to the facts and admit how amazing this one person is, because you're denying all of the levels that have been developed over time. You're denying all the work that people have put in. And that's probably the reason why I like coming out onto YouTube, is because every time that I would watch a YouTube video in my off time, and then I would go and work with real industry figures, there was such a distance between recognition for the people that were real geniuses in the industry that nobody talks about, and then a bunch of these subjective people that are trying to hoist all these praise on things that they don't understand. And that is, in a nutshell, the difference between the objective fact of all these people that actually work in the business that have created new ways of doing things, and then these subjective people that are interpreting that and trying to put together a narrative in their head because they lack the prerequisite information.
A coping mechanism. Well, two things
That's
in the
what it
chat. One is Demonic Beast Megatron 94. It's soccer. I don't speak red code. And and
yeah, I get fucked up about that. I'm sorry.
It's a ball, and you kick it with your foot. It makes sense. The name makes sense. No,
you soccer, right?
You kick it with your foot, and it's a ball you kick.
I can understand you.
Football.
Speak American. It's the only language I understand.
Speak American. No, it doesn't make any sense to me. You know what I mean? It's like if we called soccer foot rugby or something.
There's another one. Nick Poshek says Hume is great. No, never mind. That's the wrong one. There was someone said Hume had good ideas and some bad ones, and I think that was really good because that pretty much explains every philosopher.
Yeah.
Kind of ever. And that's important to point out because that's a semantic dragon. Hume had some good ideas and some bad ones. That's important to realize because these philosophers, they're really smart guys, but they're not gods. They can make mistakes. They can be wrong about things, and they know they can be wrong about things. They were just writing down the way they saw things, the way they could put things together. They're not saying that they were absolutely right. It's the way they saw things at the time while they were alive. And you can read their works, you can read their words and their perspectives, the way they saw things, and follow what they did and how they came to those conclusions. But you don't have to agree with them. You can say, well, I disagree with them here. I don't get this. I don't see why this is here. We reference these people because they were smart. They kind of dedicated their lives to studying this stuff. But just because they did that doesn't mean they're right. And because philosophers, a lot of these philosophers were in pursuit of wisdom. They were in pursuit of truth and knowledge.
Yes, I'm so glad you brought that up. Keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, they're in the pursuit of these things, and they never really acknowledged that they got there. They just wrote down and spoke about what they concluded, which might not be right, but it's what they concluded from their studies and their journeys.
You know what these people haven't read is they haven't read the Holy Grail. They don't know the Grail narrative. They don't understand the theme of that. Like the idea that all of these people that were the knights of the Grail set out on a noble goal to find the thing that would give them immortality. It's the MacGuffin that would give them some sort of thing that was impossible for other men to get, and their shortcomings didn't allow them to get it. But it's the pursuit of that perfection that is the root of that story, and we can never, in art or in anything that we do, any project that a human does, we can never achieve perfection. There's always flaws. But so what? Once we've processed that information, then you still have to go out there and make a living. You still have to go out there and satisfy your urges. You still have some sort of need or desire to go out and impact other people with art. So what I want to impart on these people is like, stop trying to cope and justify stuff and start getting on that same path that we are all on about trying to climb the mountain and see how far we can get. See how close to objectivity we can get. Because we know we're never going to actually get there. That's another given. And we don't need to have these harsh arguments about separating subjectivity and objectivity, because we just need to accept that we are trying to recognize what is happening in reality and appreciate that. It's not about personal opinion being better. My favorite movie is better than your favorite movie. Who gives a fuck? That's like 16-year-old talk.
I don't.
No,
you can just like whatever movie you want. It doesn't bother me any.
I'm at the point in my life where if you tell me that your favorite movie is something, that's fascinating to me now. Now I really want to know it because it's going to tell me something more about you, and that'll probably deepen our relationship. I want to, you know what I mean? Like
tells me about your tastes.
Yeah. No, nobody shares the same taste in movies that I have 100%, but there's overlaps and the differences are very interesting to play with. That's why we don't want to have like some sort of party line and like to have disagreements and engage on our own terms. Because if, ironically, these people have some sort of like, it's a paradox where there's an orthodoxy about how subjectivity thing is. They all agree on the same precepts that objectivity is impossible or art can't be, you can't say good or that. And it's like, nuance is the specialty of people that are seeking that objectivity. That's our game, and they need to step into that, and then they'll actually find that appreciation that they like. If you want to make something avant-garde that isn't going to follow the rules, you cannot expect the same results as somebody that is on that path to try and use a format that already works and tweak it to their personal adjustment. Because these people want to deny the commercial nature, they want to deny the audience and that engagement in a medium that is all about financially supporting itself. Films have to exist in a world where they please the audience, because the audience has to pay for all the equipment and all the personnel it takes to make the movie. Exactly. It's not just an artistic endeavor. It's not like one guy can write a book. You need a team of people at movies. So we need to appreciate that.
There's also to go back on the philosophy thing. If you take a philosophy class, take a class on maybe like philosophy 101 or something, they don't just teach you about one philosopher that was proven right. They teach you about a bunch of philosophers and a bunch of philosophies and the way they saw things, because somewhere in there is something that you can identify with. It's a gateway that you can enter the mindset of some of these people. It's because it's important to take in several points of view and not just one.
Yeah, because just as an addendum to that, there's the cool thing about this is that you can have a nonfiction text that is discussing reality. That would be an essay on something by a philosopher, and then you can get the same presentation of that information in a fictional story, but by threading a narrative that is a perspective question about how reality could be. So if you want that is dichotomy, you have it in fiction and you have it in nonfiction writings. That if you want from the human perspective. And then what I was saying in addition to that is you have historicity in history, that you can draw a potential future. Like if you're trying to figure out where things might be going, you look at the patterns of the past, and that's where we get our education from to understand how we can grow in the future. If there wasn't mechanical engineering, then there would be no computer engineering. It's a process, and that goes with art as well. So I want to teach people that kind of thing exists so that they can improve their work, as opposed to have these to make subjective statements like in these videos about, oh, my favorite thing is so good.
Okay, we're gonna keep going because we've been here for a while. But I do appreciate the talk. It's always fun.
Yeah.
The one thing I just want to kind of suggest just on the stream. So what would you guys think of doing a similar thing to movie night? However, we watch Star Wars The Clone Wars on my channel and I edit it up and do all that shit. Because I know something that LitDev has been thinking about maybe watching. And honestly, it would be kind of better to watch better Star Wars than Rise of Skywalker either. So if you guys are up for it, we could end up doing it.
I'd be down to watch Clone Wars with you because I'm not going to watch it by myself. But since you're a fan of it and, you know, if you want to like have that experience or commentary track or something like that,
I know all the best episodes and which ones to skip.
The best episodes, believe me.
I'm sure we can.
Just
sort something
don't
out.
turn into a Susie Lou who flags everyone for disregarding their opinions.
Before we continue, I just want to say this comment. This is a neat TED Talk. 1984 is objectively better than The Handmaid's Tale. I don't know. I don't know how to deal with that comment.
That's good stuff. It is. I think it is because I'm not really sure. I haven't actually read too much. I started The Handmaid's Tale. I didn't finish it. But I just know that Margaret Atwood got, from an interview I saw with her, she got kind of angry a little bit. She seemed a little perturbed at the show because it turned into a feminist sort of agenda show rather than what she wanted to produce.
Atwood's a great writer. She's just very odd at times, and she doesn't know how to finish her books. So,
I know the ending of the Handmaid's Tale is. I know that it's a very strange, peculiar ending. It doesn't really fit. But and everything else is very interesting in her book. Anyway, the book.
Yeah, she's a great writer. It's just that sometimes her opinions and her expressions are just like, whoa, what are you getting at there, darling?
I would say that Agatha Christie knows her craft a little bit better than well, I would say a little more than a little bit better than Margaret Atwood does.
Well, all these authors are great. I mean, when you give them something small, like Atwood's short stories are great. Like all the great writers have great short stories. When they do novels, that's when things get weird. So
I think just quickly off the Atwood thing, I've found her to be very popular with female literature fans that I've talked to. Yeah. And I think that I've learned to appreciate that there is a great narrative strand of female writers talking about that. And sometimes it can go too far in this direction or that direction. But I kind of understand that there's a masculine and a feminine bias in writing. And it's fun to embrace either to just get that point of view. But obviously, subjectively, I like sticking with the cowboy shit in my world. But I'm not going to be, masquerade like that's objectivity, or my collection of stuff is not more important than yours. And that's why I hate a lot of this subjective shit.
Well, if you want a great Atwood story that anyone could read very quickly, it's called Hairball. Excellent short story.
Which one was it?
Hairball. There is one huge problem with it. If you can notice it, tell me, because I know what it is. But it's a great story. Like her writing style is very good. Anyway,
it just goes like, give me a. So, if any of you are actually interested in the chat are watching this lot react to Star Wars: The Clone Wars, my channel is in the description. Please click and subscribe. Click on all our channels to subscribe.
Please.
Litter, you don't need these subs. Being honest.
Oh, the YouTube has been gutting my channel because of all these live streams I've been doing on my channel.
All right, we're going to hit the play button on this video, guys. Okay?
Yeah, let's do it.
Pause for so fucking...
Where does the story go from here at the end of The Force Awakens? Why would the first assumption be, oh, we need to learn about who the Knights of Ren are?
Oh, we need to learn about why Snoke projects himself like he does and why he's scarred, and if he's Darth Plagueis, and maybe he's that young Force kid from Revenge of the Sith, or maybe he...
Well, that wouldn't obviously be the first thing, but it would be
Asking questions is bad, guys. Asking questions is terrible.
God, we're just such... I can't believe what monsters we are for wanting there to be some sort of question that we could have answered. It's just, we're bad people.
What kind of entitled men maybe are you? You want things explained in a movie?
Look, shut the fuck up. Stop asking questions. Enjoy the film. Obviously. What are you, some kind of objectivist? Are you some kind of Nazi over there with your questions?
100. I am a Nazi objectivist. That's right. Publish it in all of the Twitters. 100%. That's news reporting. Continue.
Only Sith deal in absolutes, and that's what objectivism is. The Sith.
Evil.
He's just another regular basic bad dude that Kylo should rage kill because The Force Awakens set up the same plot as the original trilogy.
That sounds like a Star Wars visual dictionary walkthrough documentary, not a story.
Wow! What the fuck does that mean?
What is a Star Wars visual something? What is he talking about?
Okay,
a Star Wars visual dictionary is it's a big thick book, and it's got pictures of locations and items, and it basically describes some of the things about this item.
Oh, like a technical manual or what have you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the kids, those DK books, the big white ones that are like they explode out drawings and like, this is how this works. Here's the flux capacitor and all that. And he's basically saying that I'd like to replay it again, but basically what he's saying is like he's describing a movie and then acting like it's not a movie. Like movies don't have explanations for how things work. Movies don't have all of the things listed in order. Right? They have to be random or something.
Science fiction. What's that? I don't know. Just a bunch of spaceships. What's wrong with that? Can't you explain it?
Yeah, if you want explanations, if you're asking questions, then you're just a big dumb fanboy. Okay.
It's just funny to me because it's like the whole point of those things that he's talking about are because the ideas that were presented were so interesting that people wanted a further explanation, even though it was fictional. But none of the questions that you were asking would show up in the visual dictionary. So the metaphor doesn't work. He's asking actually interesting questions like, well, who are the Knights of Ren? If the Knights of Ren aren't important to the story, then they don't need to be named. That's how Chekhov's gun works. Chekhov's gun is basically how everything works.
But yeah, Smud, I posted something which is a page from the visual dictionary, and that's basically what it is. It's a bunch of descriptions and stuff.
Okay.
Like, it points to things. It says, oh, this button over here, that activates the blade. Oh, that other button over there, that's the control lock. That's the blade module control.
Okay.
So
You see that thing over there? That's the multi-scan control.
It's just
answers are just for the visual dictionary, and answers should not be in the movie. Come on.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
you should
shouldn't
reserve it for
explain it.
later.
Everything
Well,
should be in third-party
Oh God!
material.
Let's have a
So-
secondary or tertiary source for every movie. Oh my God! Give me a
So
break.
exactly. Have your audience have to do homework in order to understand your movie.
He's thinking that if I have a scene where I show a character that's like a former soldier and they have an AR-15 in their hands, right? And they're taking apart the AR-15 and putting it together, and it's so that you can visually recognize that they're proficient in this weapon. He thinks that our idea would be there has to be the character explaining what every piece of the gun is. Like, oh, this is what the hammer is, and this is the slide, and this is all this, and like giving verbose explanations of
jelly.
something. That's
Jelly
the
goes
assumption
into
that
the
he's making.
magazine, and it's fired through the cartridge.
This is very similar to the video I saw with Hello Greedo. I'm gonna probably be viewing it tomorrow, where he's pretty much saying how the hyperspace ramming is totally fine, and don't stop thinking. Like, he's literally one of those guys who don't care about details.
What's so strange is that Hello Greedo rails the prequels so fucking, and it's like how he thinks the prequels are like Satan. No offense there, I know Satan's it's a racist word for you lot.
Well, it's just weird that these
like-
people have names, they have channels that are essentially Star Wars visual dictionary, like the same mentality. Like, I'm gonna call myself ATATChan. I'm gonna call myself
Chad.
Hello
It's
Greedo.
Chad.
No, it's
It's
Chan.
not Chan.
It's Chan. Anyway, so ATATChan and Hello Greedo, we know that everything that they take as their channel's influences is lore, and yet they want to talk shit about having better lore. So I don't know if they're retarded or if they're disingenuous, but it's definitely one or both.
Okay, let's keep going.
The Last Jedi, while polarizing, took everything important from The Force Awakens, which was the internal conflict inside each character, so that we could explore that. The Knights of Ren not appearing in The Last Jedi isn't a dropped storyline. It's part of a plot device during a Force vision with no reference to the past or future to make us go, wow, that's neat. Luke...
That's good. I like it. Look at that. It's good.
Gee whiz.
At this point, I want to see AT-AT-Chan make a movie or something and see what that would be.
Why
like.
don't you just go
Oh my
watch?
God.
Go watch some porn, man. If that's the level of sensationalism you want, just go. It's good. I like it. It's nice. Like,
It's not a beach, it's a bathtub.
I have this dream.
It's a bathtub.
I have this dream of having like millions of dollars to spend so that I can get all of these critic people and just be like, all right, go and make a film. I'll give you this amount of money and we'll just see what it is. Prove that you know what you're talking about.
Okay, Litdev, I have a serious question, but is Satan like the N-word of devil?
No, it's his nickname.
Like,
like Old Scratch.
What's an offensive term? Or maybe we're supposed to say the mortally challenged.
There is no offensive term. That's why it's hell.
That's why- I like.
Old sulfur.
We don't say devil, we say mortally challenged.
Cinema Angel. Let's continue.
Being on a secluded island cut off from the Force isn't an undoing of the story either. There's quite literally no suggestion either way as to what the hell was going on regarding Luke. And to be clear, Rian Johnson himself asked JJ to make sure to not have Luke being this all-powerful Jedi floating with rocks, etc.
when did he ask for this? Tell us.
Oh, yeah, so they make it. Okay, so actually, it was the opposite. As far as I remember, Mark Hamill wanted to be flying with rocks around him. He wanted that.
Well, why can't it be? Well, they had Rey like flying around with rocks around him. Why can't Luke have that? Luke is the master. He was the one that was. He's the old, ancient, wizened old mentor.
JJ.
Oh
actually
yeah, but you know
promised
what? You know
Luke-
what?
Sorry,
You said
Mark Hamill.
you said a really sexist thing. Mentor. That's why he can't be.
Oh no.
If he was a womentor, if he was a mentor or a dementor,
we say people. We say people to. We don't say that mentor. We say people to. We people to.
Thank you, Justin.
You know exactly what I was referring.
Oh God, how could I? He opens his mouth every day because of this damn virus. It's like, oh God, he's on TV again.
It's obviously they just want to assassinate Luke's character, and that's a shame. But it's funny to me that he thinks that it's good writing that it was ambiguous about why Luke ran away when the whole film is set up on that from the beginning. Luke Skywalker has vanished is the first line of the byline, and that thread is not resolved until the end of the movie. How is that good? How is it good that we didn't know what his reason for being on that planet was? That we had to wait another 2 years or whatever.
And that could have worked, but it was the explanation that we got that was so poor and so poorly put together that you're sitting there going, that's it? That's why he changed his entire living style and why he ran away? He was ashamed?
It's because answers are bad. And
I just
they're
want
only
to point
for
out.
bad people.
Okay, so I did say it before, but Mark Hamill was actually, he was promised he would get like himself floating with rocks around him. That's what JJ said he was going to get in the film. However, he didn't get it.
Yeah, if I were Mark Hamill, I'd want the same thing. I'm a Jedi Master. Luke Skywalker, the character of Luke Skywalker is really tied to Mark Hamill. It's one of the biggest things in his career. Of course, he loves Luke Skywalker. Of course, he wants to see Luke Skywalker treated correctly. Of course, he wants to see Luke Skywalker being awesome in this movie. But Rian Johnson has ruined it.
Suck Smud. I think. So Smud, I need to show you something.
Okay, what's up? What is this? I don't know what I'm looking at.
Justin Trudeau is Smud's brother. It's in the novelization.
Where
Justin
are you getting this?
Trudeau.
It's confirmed. It's canon now.
Is it true, Smud?
I do have a brother who's very left-leaning, but I wouldn't say he's on the level of Justin Trudeau. No.
Have you seen Justin Trudeau in the same room?
So let me get this straight. So Smud Boy is Justin Trudeau's brother. So you're both sons of Fidel Castro.
No,
The half brother.
That's a dirty lie. Okay.
Smud Boy's the evil half brother.
Smud Boy is in Cuba right now, just plotting to take over Canada.
Yeah, doing judo moves and
he's training with the headband on. There's like an 80s montage going on in the background. Anyway,
Smud Trudeau.
yeah, Smudo.
Oh God, no. Smudo.
let's Smud go. Okay.
God, no. No,
End
that's
of The Force
terrible.
Awakens, well before he wrapped shooting. This means that the concept of superhero mega power Luke, honestly, was never even a concept at all. And as I have always said, TLJ.
Yeah,
is
hold on a
close
second. Wait a minute. So he's not superpowered. So he can't project his body and do matrix moves and survive being shot at by lasers and shit. He's not that superpowered. And yet Rian Johnson himself said that was the point of his power. He wanted it to be superpowered, but not make it obvious. So
Just because it happened in the movie doesn't mean that it happened.
Oh yeah, because it didn't happen in the novelization, and that's the visual dictionary.
Glib. They were just being very minimalist with their effect.
Shiney killed me.
That's taken with a death note.
That was killing me. I was rewatching Red Dwarf, and I literally just saw the like a really cheap trick they did. I think it was probably back in the 90s or something. Like obviously, Red Dwarf didn't have a lot of funding, so they
not at all.
just for the special effects. They just end up cutting weirdly to try and say, "Oh, look, it's transform." And that was the day after the stream, and I was like, "Oh, look, it's amazing! It's a minimalist. Oh my god!"
Exactly. You're like you can see how silly it is when people make those arguments, and you're like, well, I guess the 1960s Star Trek is super advanced then.
the thing is, like, Red Dwarf can kind of get away with it because it's not really very serious, you know. It's
that's the whole thing, is that it plays off your expectations, and you adjust your expectations because you know that it's a low budget show. That's why people are fans of Doctor Who, and I'm not. I can't adjust my expectations enough to embrace that set dressing, but I can for something like Babylon 5. So it's
glib.
It's totally subjective.
Glib. Look, me and you are going to have a very stern talking to outside.
A
very stern talking to with a shotgun.
With
at the end,
5 meters distance.
This just shows which side I'm on, because I have English blood, but I'm definitely an American because I like Star Trek more than Doctor Who.
Well, I love Star Trek more than Doctor Who, to be honest. That depends on which one. Deep Space Nine. Ooh.
You know what? All of them are good, and we should probably keep going with the video because we keep getting off track.
Look, as we keep going off track in every single fucking stream, I don't know why we go off track, because what we talk about is infinitely more interesting.
Well, we'll have a sci-fi TV show podcast sometime, and we can all talk about it.
They just kind of sit there awkwardly in a call. It's like, so, see that ludicrous display last night? Thing about arseless always try and walk. You're the only person that got that reference.
Doctor Who sucks. Picard sucks. Star Trek Discovery sucks. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, LiteratureDevil. real great addition to the conversation there.
Yeah, but we can talk about that. We'll have a whole conversation about the old stuff, Farscape and Stargate and Red Dwarf and Babylon 5, and we'll talk about all that stuff. Pulp writing for science fiction, just a big jumble stream. We'll have people come in. I don't know, but throwback science fiction would be a great conversation to have, because yeah. Let's just talk about what makes good science fiction, and then I'd in that stream I'd want to go over the writer's guide for Star Trek, because that would be really fun to discuss with you guys as writers, because the idea of using something that is restriction and then writing into that and still being able to be creative within that format is the mark of a great working writer back at that time period. So if we could prove ourselves by doing that, that would be a good exercise as writers. Just like, all right, if we write a Star Trek story, or we discuss writing a Star Trek story just for the sake of it, it'd be fun to see if we can follow the rules that Roddenberry put out. And that would be a justification as we could write an episode of Star Trek if we potentially wanted to. Yeah. That's a magical thing to me.
Like, you've seen Star Trek Picard, you're now going to see Stargate O'Neill.
I have a
Stargate O'Neill. It's going to happen.
One of my friends works on Star Trek Picard as an assistant art designer, and that it's very difficult for me to watch that show because I like his work, and I've known him for so long as a concept artist. So it's disappointing to see everybody hate on this show. It's like a conflict.
It'd be interesting seeing what he's made specifically about that.
I'd love to show it. I'll ask him if I can do that. But like he designed like the label for the Chateau Picard wine, and then unfortunately they're not giving him residual paychecks for that, but they're selling the wine design now. So right. I know that there's a lot of bad art design on that show, but what's interesting to me is that it would be great to contrast that with his own concept art, because he started by making alternate Star Wars stuff. He made he showed me back like 10 years ago this a walker design that looked like a snow speeder. So it was like a ATST mixed with a snow speeder, like a Rebel ATST. And I thought, I was like, wow, this guy can draw into someone else's art style and come up with his own interesting
I want to see that, actually. That'd be pretty sweet.
I'll send that to you.
Okay.
But anyway, we've seen every single sci-fi franchise, well, almost every single, most franchises go down. Mm-hmm. And I swear, all we're waiting for is like a new Stargate, and it's like the worst shit ever. Like, you have swearing every 5 seconds. Like, you have the original beloved cast just being shat on. It's like Rodney McKay comes back and he's like just the worst. All his characters been he's back to like the sexist he used to be when he was first revealed.
Well, just to get back to round this whole thing out, my ultimate philosophy and theory is that because all these things are falling away, it gives us as a group of people and as writers and as creators the opportunity and given enough time, I think that opportunity we will be able to get to the position where we'll be able to make decisions that can actually affect this and like be involved in the process. Because if Hollywood falls apart because of all this like coronavirus junk and all these bad stories that nobody wants to hear anymore, there's so much opportunity for new investments to come in for entertainment, and that's going to require a lot of writers and ideas are going to be selected. So it's a perfect opportunity, especially now when everybody's locked up, to get your creative stuff out, right? You know.
Do you know what I think? I think just Hollywood in general is one of the problems with Hollywood is that it's so centralized, and in these days you don't need film production to be so centralized, and it's centralized around so much elitism in Hollywood, which I think that's very fair to say.
Yeah, that's why Lucas was trying to create an alternate studio system in Marin County that he would be able to control and just make whatever he wanted, and he wasn't allowed to because his neighbors vetoed the zoning, which pissed him off. And so then the story goes is that it's because he couldn't create the studios, he then put low-income housing in the area to fuck with his neighbors to bring down the property value. Don't fuck with Lucas.
Well, I don't know. I reckon fucking with Lucas would be pretty fun now. But yeah, I would have loved to see if that actually panned out, because Hollywood at the moment is just so elitist and so I don't like how centralized it is, and there's studios and film production places, especially here in the UK. There's I'll give you an example. Here in the UK, film production used to be so centralized around London, and now it's slowly in the early 2000s it slowly moved towards Wales as they were doing so much reconstruction in Cardiff, and now it's slowly moving up north. And as we're seeing that move up north, there's certain. I met a visual effects supervisor. I went to Viridian Effects here in York, where, if you don't know, if you're all American, York is in northern England, and what they're doing basically proves is that you don't need to have this central film production area anymore. You don't need to rent out a really expensive office in London to do visual effects. You can do it in a much cheaper office in the middle of York, which is, you don't have to pay taxes just for being in London. You can do it anywhere.
Well, here's the thing. The real answer to that question, and I know this is another tangent, but for everybody to hear, the answer is the Blumhouse model, where you have to start with really small productions. You have to choose projects that are going to be cheap to create and are going to have a built-in audience. Then as you get your successes, and as you bank on those successes, you can double up on your company. But that's the only way this is going to work, is if people build up from the bottom by giving entertainment that people want. And there is a line, there's an invisible line, a blurred line. And I'm amazed, because I feel like when we have these conversations, it's one of the only places that it's actually happening. Like, I have heard conversations between executives at a very high level about them wanting to try and break into the streaming market, but they are operating in the old world medium. They don't cross over. A movie exists as a movie. It's not a live stream. It's not like this. This is a different format. So these things don't really cross over. Somebody needs to figure out how to make films that can be distributed immediately to people, that people are willing to pay for, and then actually make that money. Because the current system that has been built on that old world where people go to the theater and they do this and that, it's not sustainable. So somebody's going to have to take over. And there's a whole bunch of people that want to work and want to make narrative content. And there's a whole bunch of people that want to buy into that. But there has to be a new model. I don't know if there's going to be a GoFundMe on a massive scale to make a movie or something like that, or if it's going to be a new generation of independent filmmakers that create the new studios. And those studios can be anywhere really. But the issue is that, like what you're saying about centrality, that is just a nature of how people congregate to an area. Everybody moved to Hollywood because that's where the film jobs were. So everybody in film went there. The people
I thought it was more specifically to do with escaping the law, a copyright law of cameras or something along the lines of that.
It's literally just because you go where the jobs are. And because there was so much, when Hollywood was kind of founded earlier in the 1900s, Los Angeles was not as built up as it was today. There was something like maybe 10 times more studio spaces. It was like Disneyland. There were so many different studios. Those got sold by this guy. I think his name was like Markarian or something. This Armenian dude took over Paramount or something like that, and he was a real estate guy. And so he sold all of the stuff when there was a slump in film, so that the studio space got smaller. So there's all these different layers of it, and there's the consolidations of companies that then have to return a profit, and that changes their structure and what kind of films they make. The only clean way to get out of this is if somebody was to copy that Blumhouse model, like I said, and build up the company from the bottom. Anyway, let's get back to it, because I know Smud's probably bored.
Huge tangent. Yeah.
Oh, we're doing a video. Oh, okay. It's great, guys. How's it going? Okay.
Sorry about that.
Thanks for coming on the stream.
Here we are to talk about the film industry.
Let's keep going.
We're getting into more
infinitely more interesting
than was supposed to be than The Force Awakens was, which was to explore the Force and what that the original intention of what The Force Awakens was supposed to be than The Force Awakens was. Our Luke, honestly, was never even a concept at all. And as I have always said, TLJ is closer to the original intention of what The Force Awakens was supposed to be than The Force Awakens was.
What? How? What? Do you have nothing you have presented so far in this video has given me that impression.
Okay. So The Last Jedi is a better introduction to the trilogy?
He just made one assertion after assertion after assertion with no proof as to how these assertions are true.
What he just said was that The Last Jedi was a better The Force Awakens than The Force Awakens was.
Yeah, it was more Force Awakens than The Force Awakens was. It was more JJ than JJ was.
That is illogical. That is not supported by fact. And even to make that logically connecting in reality, you have to then say, okay, what's the premise of The Force Awakens?
You awarded no points. And may God have mercy on you.
Yeah, it's one of those crazy things. So we have to then look at The Force Awakens and say, okay, the premise was this. JJ did that. It's not perfect. Then you have to look at The Last Jedi and say, you know what? That's the premise. Rian took that and did a better job than JJ did with the premise, which doesn't make any sense because the premise of The Last Jedi is definitely not the premise of The Force Awakens. And then you have to have an assessment where you have to then say, okay, this was planned out this way, that we wanted to have the same premise, and that Rian Johnson was allowed to do that, provided he followed the strict rules of matching the premise, which I don't even, how does he even come to this conclusion? It's one of those ridiculous things that, he doesn't know he either doesn't know what he's talking about or he's making shit up. I can't see this logically. I can't see this. You're making a tautology, and then you're going, hey, A is B, A is A, but you know what? B is more than A. And then you have to list the reasons what makes A. Then you have to match that up with B. It doesn't make any sense. That's on paper. Then in reality, you have to look at the video or the movie and go, okay, well, this is what happened in the movie. And it's of a lower quality than what The Last Jedi was for what A was. It's, oh my goodness. Okay, that hurt my brain. We're gonna keep going.
Welcome to an ATAT video.
Yeah, that was his worst thing he said so far, I think.
This is the other two videos we covered. They were a lot more enjoyable to cover because of how stupid they were. Here's a reverse shot, here's another shot, here's a quick shot, here's a backwards shot, here's a spinny shot. That's a good trick. Oh, here's another shot. Oh, look, here's another shot. And we're going to count every single shot. This scene has 27 shots. That makes it good. Oh, talk about the fucking fight, you plonker.
Let's just keep going.
This is just... Yeah. This is just mind-numbing.
Yeah, I would say my brain would have been turned off if I didn't actually listen to that. What?
I was about to say LitDev died, but he instantly...
Yeah. He's getting better at dying.
I'm just don't go off on a tangent. Don't go. Don't piss off Smud. Come on, Glib.
Which was to explore the Force.
Is the internet in hell just so terrible?
I don't know.
Is
It
it just that bad?
It just stopped for a second. Everything else was
Maybe-
fine. It was just
is it
Discord.
just-
Discord was acting up.
All right.
Is it just so hot in hell
right.
that your computer just overheats? Is that what?
All right, guys, let's keep going. I'm also going to hurt my brain here, okay?
No, I need to know. Is it just that hot in hell? Is that why your computer overheats?
Yes, that's why.
Okay. This is an important question that needed answering.
Thank you. Everyone knows now that. That's great information.
Was to explore the Force and what that means now, 30 years after the events of the prior trilogy.
Okay, so to him, the premise of Episode 7 was to explore the Force and what that means now in the entire trilogy. I didn't know that about Episode 7, guys. Did you?
No, because
News to me.
that was almost as if that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
It's the assertion without a substantiation.
And
Well,
what
it's an
did,
ATATChat video.
what did the
so-
Force explore? What was explored in Episode 8? I'm trying to think, because all I remember is Luke being angry.
Tickled.
The greatest
Ray's
failures
hands.
teachers are, or something.
Does he mean
Okay,
that
so
like,
if we're
it's
being
there's
serious-
new powers? There's like it explored the Force
I
and
think
that.
I know what he's referring to. I think he's referring to the lines where Luke says, "To say that if the Jedi die, the Force dies is vanity," and the whole, the Force doesn't belong to the Jedi and the Sith, and blah blah blah, that stuff.
Yeah.
I think he's referring to that, but all that stuff is just.
Well, it's a good thing he's leaving it intentionally vague, so he can't be wrong.
It's such
Also,
a strange thing to say.
I never remembered anyone saying that if the Jedi die, the Force dies, and that's why they want them around. It's the
Nobody
Jedi
ever said
dies,
that.
then the heroes die. I mean, the heroes who defend the Force, who defend the
thing
good
is
side of it,
about
defend people, they die.
The reason why people don't want the Jedi to die is because they defend the galaxy. They stop the evil.
Yeah, there are other reasons. Like it's not like if the Justice League dies, then justice dies. No one said that, but the defenders die.
If
that's
if
great.
Marvel defenders die, then there's no defense at all.
All we got was a whole bunch of new Force powers that we have no explanation for.
Now they say that we're going out here to find Luke so we can save the Force or something, which would be ridiculous. Then this line would make sense, but that's not the case.
And
They
why
just
is it?
just want to save the Jedi because the Jedi are good people.
To me, the vanity thing is like a meta comment from Ryan. He's like, if I kill the Jedi, it doesn't even matter because Star Wars will continue.
Interesting.
Like it's vanity to
Yeah.
assume that Star Wars has to have Jedi and Sith. You don't know what you're talking about, fanboy.
The big dumb fanboys.
The Force is a pretty big part of Star Wars, and so are the Jedi. Considering that the Jedi are one of the more interesting parts of Star Wars, and what makes it Star Wars, and not just any kind of sci-fi. 'Cause it has space magic.
If I ever get a chance to talk to him, I'm gonna ask him, what do you think the point of the trilogy was? If he doesn't say this,
No.
I'm gonna be confused.
Look, I have a question for him. How does he go throughout a whole video about a fight scene and saying the fight scene is great without talking about the fucking fight?
That
That's my question.
Are we evidence? And ATATChan does not do evidence; he just does assertions.
Obviously. Like, I kind of felt a bit silly, having Shadowversity on.
Shadowversity on about a video about a fight scene where he doesn't talk about the fight scene.
It's like, yeah, I wanted to okay, so the best I can give an example is, when I was very passionate about the last stream where we talked about visual, because, that's where I come into my own. That's my, desired industry, and that's my passion. Not just, Star Wars. And then it comes to kind of I kind of want to give, if Shad's going to be on here, I want him to give something which is accurate to his skill set. And obviously, the big thing about Shad is he does choreography and fight and swords and medieval history. And that's what he's most knowledgeable. So I want to try and do that for him if he's here. I felt so bad for him because I know he had fun, and that's obviously a good thing. But still.
Well, we got to finish this off, guys. So let's just listen very intently because
We spent 3 hours watching 5 or almost 6 minutes of this guy's.
I think that the audience has been enjoying it, so it's paid off.
All right.
Well, he did pack a lot of wrong into 7 minutes.
As well as who is Luke Skywalker now? What has happened? And how does Rey fit into this? That's really it. So to wrap this up, because I feel like this sounds like a rage piece and I'm not about the rage life, I think that people need to stop obsessing over this trilogy now. At least the way
AT, stop obsessing over this trilogy. That's a good rule.
Make
Stop
an entire
obsessing.
YouTube channel after Star Wars. Stop obsessing
You know
over
what?
Star Wars, okay?
I think that applies to the original trilogy. People should stop obsessing over it, so don't make sequels. How about that?
You're the biggest movie trilogy ever in the history of the mankind. Stop obsessing over it, okay?
Exactly, yeah. Star Wars isn't a big cultural icon. It's, stop obsessing.
Stop liking stuff, okay?
Smud, stop obsessing over Mass Effect and Shepard.
Oh, believe
That's
me.
obviously what your channel's built on. Is
I've
you're
parted
obsessed
ways a
with-
long time with Shepard.
Look, just because you enjoyed something and it gave you meaning and satisfaction in your life, stop obsessing over it.
You know those relationships you have? Like who cares?
What do you care about your existence? Meaning and stuff?
Extreme apathy is the highest virtue.
I mean, I just have an icon for a helmet from Star Wars, but I don't care.
Yeah. It's just a movie that I care immensely about.
Then again, he's done the same thing as me. Like, I've got a helmet.
Yeah,
got a
but
Star
you're
Wars
not
helmet.
telling people to stop talking about the thing you love.
Stop talking about Star Wars. Stop talking. Don't talk about Clone Wars. You see, when it comes to the Clone Wars discussion, anyone who talks shit about Clone Wars, you're out. You're just out. I'm sorry.
You need to stop
You have to
obsessing
go.
about Clone Wars, dude.
Oh, don't tell me. Stop obsessing about strawmen. How about that? I'm assuming that's what your icon's supposed to be, some kind of.
Strawman. Stop
I don't
obsessing
know.
about Cowboy. Clint
It
Eastwood.
looks about. All right. To me, it looks like, a straw hair. I don't know. What is your icon supposed to be?
This is not related anyway.
Anyway, let's keep going.
that they do. And sure, guilty as
No,
charged.
don't put us
The
back
films
on
exist-
ATAC.
Oh,
Don't.
guilty as
Yes,
charged.
yes.
He's not completely ignorant. It's amazing. Wow.
No, we know he's not. He's got a level of awareness.
He's aware of himself.
That actually is pretty amazing. It's pretty surprising. I didn't know he had a level of awareness, self-awareness.
I'm impressed. He just says, "Hey guys, stop doing that," even though I'm aware I'm doing it right now. Oh, okay.
Even though my whole channel is dedicated to Star Wars, stop obsessing. I
He's
know
like,
I'm,
yeah, I
I
know.
might,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
might be a little guilty of this myself. You might not have noticed, but I might be a little bit guilty of obsessing over Star Wars.
I'm just a fan.
Be like me, guys. Just don't make a whole YouTube channel about it, okay?
You don't have to like them at all. You can love them, hate them, whatever. But I think trying to blame people or find arbitrary reasons to why things did or didn't work.
You're blaming
Arbitrary.
the two
Arbitrary.
editors. You're literally blaming the two editors because you disagree with them.
You disagree with their opinion, which is apparently evil in your eyes.
What hypocrisy? Like how far does this go, buddy? What? George Lucas is just a man, okay? Like he's not a god.
He's a man, not a god.
No, George Lucas is a god. Don't worry about it. He created a universe. He molded it. Definition of a god if I've ever heard one.
Stop making disingenuous arguments.
Out according to our preconceived notions is ridiculous. It's something I expect from fans, but not professionals.
Oh.
And if what Marky meant by undo
Professionals can't have opinions, apparently.
Professionals can't
Glib,
be
get the
fans.
fuck out. Glib,
Yeah, I can't.
get the fuck out. Get
now
out.
Now that I'm a professional, I can't be a fan of something. I have to just be whatever his definition of it is.
If you're
out,
professional,
Glib.
you have to say everything is great. You have to say everything is awesome and fantastic, and it all worked out just fine.
So he expects professionals to be shills that don't have their own opinions.
An editor has
Very
to be a
good.
shill. What a
In
fantastic
his defense,
job.
though, in his defense, that's what they usually are these days.
Smud, did you write a book? Smud, did you write a book?
Yeah, I did write a book this week, yeah.
Does that make you a professional?
Technically, yeah, it does.
Get the fuck out. What, you think you're professional? Can have some kind of opinion? What are you?
Yeah,
what are
yeah.
you?
The fact that he's calling editors to be like lockstep with
fan.
whatever the writing is like the exact opposite of what a writer or an editor is supposed to do.
A professional can't have their own opinion. What are you going to talk about?
An editor is there to beat the crap out of a script, not to say, "Yep, this is perfect. This is great. Everything's good."
Well, another thing. Okay, to another stretch. You know, you get money from this stream. Does that technically make it a profession? Would it be professional?
Yes, I would say that.
Okay, the stream's down. The stream can't have its own opinion. The stream's got to...
Everything. Capitalism bad. Money? Nope. Can't have money. Money's bad.
that reminds me of ATATChat. It's like, oh, I'm not letting this guy make money off of my... That's why you're flagging it.
I'm still waiting for YouTube to bring down the hammer. I'm just like, okay, anytime, buddy. Let's get this started.
Like, one day.
I've gone through legal action in regards to takedowns, so it's not a problem for me. But anyway,
Doing the storytelling meant that J.J. Abrams couldn't literally recreate the original trilogy verbatim, because The Rise of Skywalker tried to do that in one film. Then I am perfectly okay with Rian Johnson's deviation from the status quo. It's one more reason I hope.
okay, so does that
So
mean
he did deviate.
So he really didn't like Episode 7, and because it was so unoriginal, that Rian Johnson was so original, it's good. I think that's what he's
Well,
saying.
yeah, I think the usual argument is that
88
it's different, therefore it's good.
Did he deviate or did he not? I mean, you the whole thing here, the whole video was based on someone who was complaining that he deviated, and
Yeah,
then
that's why
you
you're so
said he
mad at
didn't
these editors.
deviate, or you're saying it was some kind of hypocrisy, and then you're saying now they did deviate.
Yeah, apparently J.J.
I feel like
made a movie on the
Did
status
Glib
quo.
just kind of get it, like slam his desk and just run off? It sounded like that. I probably did.
Apparently, J.J. Abrams did a movie that was appealing to the status quo, and then Rian Johnson deviated from the status quo. But at the same exact time, he did exactly what J.J. Abrams wanted to do. He followed exactly.
Not
what
only
J.J. Abrams
they did exactly the
set
same, he did it better.
And he did it better, obviously, because he's Rian Johnson.
It's just another one of those stupid ass things where you're like, oh, because it was different, it's somehow good. No,
Yeah, it's different, therefore it's
No.
good.
sometimes the status quo is awesome.
His whole argument kind of boils down to Rian Johnson did not deviate from J.J. Abrams' plan, but he also deviated from J.J. Abrams' plan.
What a great video.
Thanks,
High
AT&T
quality content from AT&T.
Like Schrodinger's Johnson.
Yeah.
Oh god, sure. That means something else. Oh god, no.
High quality incontinence.
Hope
High
that
quality
man
condiment.
is given a trilogy in that galaxy. I don't care if it only makes $500,000. I don't care about box office numbers.
I don't care about Hollywood. I want what I like, okay?
You want what we want.
I don't care about the
I
business
don't
of making
care.
movies. I just want what I like.
Okay, so
fail.
if an insanely popular franchise doesn't make enough money, while it doesn't directly mean that the film is bad, it usually gives an idea of what the audience thinks of this film.
Well, it's just another hypocrisy. There would be no Star Wars if the first movie made $500,000 because there would be no
Thing is,
sequel. So
if the
you
film-
get ruined again.
If the film made the most money in history, so say it made more than Endgame, they would be shouting from the fucking roofs, holding it up like this glorious cow. It's like, oh my god, look at Star Wars. It's making so much fucking money. And then when it doesn't make money, they pull it back to the opposite. Oh no, I don't care about how much money it makes.
Yeah, it makes a lot of money, therefore it must be good. It's like, no, buddy.
Well, no, he's saying the opposite. He doesn't care about how much money it makes.
But it's
I'm
here's the
saying
thing.
he wouldn't be saying that if the films had historically.
The
large
filmmakers will never say, "Oh no, this movie made a lot of shit. What did we do wrong, guys?"
Damn it, Hollywood making all that money for us.
Guys, we could have been so much more artistic if we chose not to make money. It's like no one thinks that. And if you do, you don't have any business.
No,
literally
Glib, you
business.
should know they think that way. You work in the industry. You should know. You should know exactly how it is.
Yeah, I do. And it's everybody wants to make money. There's a whole bunch of people that are just there to make on all sorts of projects. How many people on a set actually
make
chose to
money
be
on
on that
film?
project? So
I never knew people made money in film.
you know what? I go to work as work as a chef, but I don't expect to have customers. I don't care how many customers, as long as it tastes good to me.
I love making soup. It's so much fun. It makes me be creatively satisfied. It's like, okay, that's great.
Just throws shit in a blender, just kind of goes, oh, look, a
Yep.
I don't care about popularity. I don't care about any of that nonsense. For me, at least there will be a novel approach to the Star Wars sandbox. And what it means.
What the hell is the Star Wars sandbox, guys? Can you tell me?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Let me Google this. Star Wars sandbox.
I know what he's referring to. He's saying like all of the lore stuff. The way that the world building is constructed so that you can put your own imagination into it. And I agree that that is an interesting thing, but I think that these sequel movies destroy a lot of the aspects of that.
No, what he's referring to is, obviously, he's referring to Tatooine. It's a sandbox. It's made of sand. It's a sandbox, obviously.
Just the idea that there are these canon worlds brain can inhabit and think about when you read a story or play a video game or watch a movie or something like that. And he's touting that as like, oh, it's a novel take. The Last Jedi introduces a lot of interesting concepts, and he doesn't seem to understand that it messes with the lore and changes it to the point where it's not the same as it was before. It's bad.
I looked up Star Wars Sandbox, and the very first thing to come up was like I don't know if you ever heard of Star Wars Galaxies, but it used to be like a really fucking fantastic MMO.
Yeah, before the Jedi update.
Before the combat up. We don't talk about that.
Yep.
We don't talk about that here. We don't do that. But that was literally the first thing that came up when searching Star Wars Sandbox, and I just thought, oh my god, so many memories.
Yeah, because it gives you the opportunity to play as all of these concepts you saw introduced, and that's
you could literally
the world building. But the
problem
problem is that
fucking dancer in that thing. You could be engineer.
Let me ask you this: what is the Last Jedi? What is the Force Awakens, or what is the Rise of Skywalker leave you with to play with in your sandbox? What are the tools now besides Rey and everything that already exists?
Force suicide.
Anyway,
yeah,
that's what you get to play with. Force suicide. Sky.
Make a Star War. AT-AT signing off.
All right, that's enough for me.
What? AT-AT producers Admiral Thrawn. Why is a fictional character one of his producers?
Thank you, Patreon, for paying for this. I appreciate that.
Whew, okay, that was
short and sweet.
How you doing, Smud?
Oh boy.
Why is Thrawn credited?
I always have this dull feeling in my head. It's like I just didn't grasp.
That's why I love, like, for me it's hard after this because it's so taxing.
No, guys, why is a fictional character credited as a fucking producer for the video?
Because he, just like ATATChat, all these people want to LARP as the characters that they love, and yet at the same time they get upset if you think that your favorite characters get ruined. It's fucking ridiculous.
But it's like, I'm assuming the other two are like usernames or something.
No, they're all usernames.
But so someone actually used the username Admiral Thrawn?
Well, someone used the username Hello Greedo.
No, but the thing is, Hello Greedo, at least it's working off a fictional character already, but like it's not just straight up Greedo.
That's what this is all fandom stuff, man. This is why this stuff is so successful. People want an archetype or a character that they can look up to, that they can build an identity around and then alter or whatever. And the new sequels just don't have that. They introduce these shitty characters that no one wants to be like. And that's why I hate hearing these people that are so, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and they don't defend the old stuff. They only embrace changes and stuff that are arbitrary because they're just such followers. They're non-thinkers. They think, but they don't like actually think about the consequences of what's happening. They just want to embrace whatever's happening because they still want to believe in this thing this sandbox. That's what Star Wars is to ATAT-Chan. It's a sandbox that his brain can go play in, but he can't realize when someone's taking a crap in it.
That's a good way to end it. Jeez.
Also, why have the name ATATChat? Like, I know I've never questioned this before, but I want to question it now. Why the name ATATChat?
Okay, when we're starting,
it's not because he doesn't like conversations, so it's not because he likes conversations.
It's because Hello
So
Greedo.
what
yeah,
ATAT-Chat is like a copy of Hello Greedo. Same kind of thinking.
No, Hello Greedo's worse. I think Hello Greedo will.
Think about it this way:
He will
Greedo
misrepresent.
Chat, yeah, but Chat Greedo or Greedo Chat and Hello ATAT.
Well,
or ATAT.
talking
Hello.
about Hello Greedo, we're actually doing a video about them tomorrow, and we're going to be having a new person on from tomorrow. I believe he's a friend of Glib's, popping on tomorrow.
Oh yeah. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
Voice in the radio.
Voice in the radio. He's joining us tomorrow, and we're doing.
What are we going to call him?
Sorry,
We're just going to call him Radio. What are we going to voice of the radio? What are we going to call him? Just Radio.
Voice.
Yeah, sure. Voice. Yeah.
Well, we're doing another thing on Sunday, which is going to be our second, if we get everyone involved, or just LiteratureDevil and Glib, the second brainstorming session for our new space opera potential story we might be writing.
I can't wait.
Yeah. So we have a full weekend lined up in the evening. I think it's 4:00 tomorrow, p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and perhaps 6 p.m. on Sunday if we can make it happen. We're not sure.
Well, for me, it's today. Currently,
You should be in bed,
half
yeah.
2 in the morning.
Yeah. So
I've been up way later before.
okay. Well, thank you for
Welcome
joining
to
us,
the UK.
Shiney. We appreciate it. And everyone else out there for tuning in, we'll see you tomorrow. And any suggestions you have, do join my Discord and leave it in the suggestions part of that Discord server. I'm always open to talking to you guys about it and seeing whether or not we have any other videos that these gentlemen would be happy to look at. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Happy to be on here.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I always love your commentary as much as you run off and talk about other things that aren't related to the video, but that's
Look,
okay.
it wouldn't be a Smudcast
It's true.
without, having much more interesting and in-depth discussions.
Every frame a tangent. I think
Pretty much. It's a good-
EFAT.
Every
Fat.
frame something infinitely more interesting.
Hi guys, welcome to EFAT. I'm Glib Facsimile.
Oh God, no! Oh no, it's Movie Bob.
Oh boy.
Welcome to EFAT. Kind of like Chow Yun.
Okay, gentlemen and ladies, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Good night.
Good night.